YouTube. How you guys doing today? Facebook. That's a question I don't actually want to ask you. I pick up the business section here from is this the Time Chicago Tribune. Fates, Facebook gets more heat from the Federal Trade Commission and states. U.S. regulators and states attorneys general are increasing pressure on Facebook as they probe whether the company's data collection practices have hurt the people who use its services. Nah, 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 no, no, no. Let's see how Jackie's doing this morning at 219-845-1100. Hi, Jackie.
Hey, Jim. Oh, you were so cool, and I like to go where the chilly winds don't blow.
Where would that be exactly?
Jim. I'm sorry?
Where would that be exactly, where the chilly winds don't blow?
Oh, well, we're getting there. We're 50, right?
Yeah, we're 50, and it's going to be 55 tomorrow, and next thing you know, it'll be mid-July, and we might hit 80.
So cool, and you are so cool. I wanted to call you the other morning, and then I'll let you go. I know you have things to do. But it's a wonder I never met you because I know Cousin Phyllis, and I used to go out with her brother Don. And I know Mike Dabrowski because my sister went out with him long time ago.
So you guys were going out with the Dabrowski Podkul family, huh?
Yes. Oh, but it was fun. You know, we used to have fun.
So you used to date Donald, huh?
Yeah.
He likes to get out there and have some fun, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. And so did I. But we all grow up a little bit.
Okay. All right. Well, it is odd that we never met. Maybe we did and we wouldn't even know it.
Right, right. But you jam, and I love your program. Listen to you every morning.
Thanks a lot, Jackie. Have a good day today, huh? Hey, Jackie, have a good day. All right. All right, there you go. I want to go where those chilly winds don't blow. If you're joining us on streaming video on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, then you wouldn't know what she's talking about. But I did play a little bit of Grateful Dead, Cold Rain and Snow. Now, it doesn't really apply that much this morning because it's really a lot warmer than it has been at 49 degrees here, right south of Chicago. But it still has that feel. It's still been cold and rainy and snowy around here. And I'm looking through the rest of the month here, okay? And you are looking at like highs right around the normal high right now is 50. And then it's going to get cold over the weekend. And that's not April Fool's, but it will be on April Fool's Day where it gets down into the low 20s. And then it's not until about mid-April where we get a good 60 degrees and sunny day. And then it's not until, let's see, these are just Farmer's Almanac predictions. No, they're actually AccuWeather predictions. And it is not until May 1st that we get 70 degrees. And let's see, going forward, it is not until June that it hits 80. So some of you that have been around a long time that have walked home from school in February and you've taken your jacket off, because it doesn't matter, jacket on, jacket off, it doesn't matter either way. But, if you take your jacket off and you drive and you walk home, that's because it's a lot warmer. And we just haven't had that, man. And I've even quit riding my bike. And I explained it yesterday in that I don't want to ride my bike because it takes so long to get bundled up. I don't even mind riding in the cold. As a matter of fact, I prefer it. But I don't want to get all bundled up today. I'm just going to get in my car and drive down here. All right, what do you guys want to talk about? 219-845-1100. So I started to talk about that. One of the things, if you're just picking this up, is that it's been almost 2 years now that we have, I think it's like a year and 10 months, we dedicated to streaming video. We had dedicated to it before that, but we really kind of turned our attention to putting ourselves on Facebook, and we've had over, I don't know, I think we're over 30, well over 3 million views since we started on Facebook. That's a lot of views. And you would think that I would be maybe turned around about all this because we're streaming to Facebook. That's not the case. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me where we stream it to. Probably we should be streaming it to our website, but that'll be next. Here's what it says in the Chicago Tribune. This is crazy. Look at this. Will you ever trust Facebook again? It's massive article on the there you go, on the editorial page. I don't know if you guys ever check the Tribune editorial pages. They put a lot of time into it. Facebook is losing friends fast. Its favorability rating, how well people like the social media giant, has plunged 28% in the last 5 months. The FTC confirmed Monday that it is investigating whether Facebook is living up to an early agreement to keep some user information private. And right across the state line at Cook County, they're suing Facebook and the political consulting firm Cambridge Analytica, founded by Donald Trump supporters, for allegedly violating a state fraud law. The suit accuses Cambridge of using improperly gained Facebook data to influence voter behavior. Now, I think at first glance, you're going to say, wow, what are you going to do? I was reading one of the texts here. What are you going to do if Facebook does a face plant, goes the MySpace direction? You know what? I'm not altogether sure. I have a general feeling here that I have been blogging, and I haven't necessarily talked about it on the air so much, that I was dismayed at the lack of regulation of social media sites. And the perhaps the reason that I can say that with any sort of authority is that we're existing in two worlds right now. We're existing in the radio world where we are hyper regulated, and we exist in the Facebook Live and Twitter, YouTube world where we basically have no regulations. What the difference is there is that these folks at Facebook, especially, are saying that they don't make any determination about the content. They just put it out. And because of that, they don't have to be held to being responsible for the content. Whereas at its very core, I have to be responsible for every second of content that goes over these airwaves. There are some incredible ways that they can just punish the heck out of you if you are not. Okay? I never understood that. I mean, because if that was the case, then I got two radio stations. I'd take one of the radio stations and say, I'm not going to care what goes on that content. I'll just let people put their own content on it. I won't have any control over it. And let's see what happens. Well, you can't do that, but you can do that with Facebook. To me, what it boils down to is that you can go into a crowded theater with Facebook and you can yell fire. And if you guys know what that reference is to, that was a Supreme Court ruling on the limits of free speech. And I can't remember who did. I'll have to look it up. But one of the Supreme Court judges came up with that. And you know what? Now we've created a way where not only can you do that, you can make millions, if not billions of dollars off of allowing people to yell fire in a crowded theater. But it's everywhere, man. It's almost like you turn on the TV, there's nowhere else to go. Here it is, the Post-Tribune front, huge article in the business section. Huge editorial in the Chicago Tribune. Another article here, lawsuit, Facebook failed users. Cook County sues Cambridge Analytica, saying it misused data from social media giants' Illinois customers. Facebook sought to keep developers building on its platform and provide companies with all the tools they need to influence and manipulate user behavior. And that is just a start. Oh, how about the top of USA Today? Here it is. Facebook falls on the ropes, dazed by intense backlash. It's officially open season on Facebook, says the USA Today. All right, one of the big stories yesterday was the rise of the stock market. If you guys were looking at that yesterday, over 600 points. It just kept going up and up, and it is continuing this morning as the Dow is up well over 600 points. I don't know if I've ever seen a rise like that, or it's not a huge. I mean, it was up 669, and it's up another $1.70 this morning. So you're talking about, could we have a 1,000-point rise in the Dow in 2 days? It's possible. Let's see here. The Dow right now is up $1.40. So we'll see that if you put 669 in $1.40, you're already up over 800 points in 2 days. And around here locally, there's some fallout from the big fire on Sunday morning. And that was the fire in the Lakeshore Apartments, Lakeshore something apartments in Gary in the Miller section, as the Lakeshore Dunes Apartments. That's what it is. Lakeshore Dunes Apartments. And it was a little kid, two little kids died in this thing, and then an 8-year-old. If you guys haven't seen the video, it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's miraculous, but it's horrific at the same time. As you know, that there's still 2 kids up there. There's another video of a young kid in green pajamas, doesn't show his face. He's trying to run up stairs into a just complete cloud of smoke to get his brother and sister. And he has to be restrained from going up that. And I don't know what you say, man. You just go, life is just almost unfathomable that something that horrific could happen. The displaced residents from that place, many of them were put over at Majestic Star Casino. So thanks to that, Trinice Hurt ran out of the fire-ridden apartment building, her 3 kids in tow, only to hear a little boy crying for help from the 4th floor. She tried to get back up the stairs to help, but the smoke was too thick, so she went to her 2nd-floor apartment and got a blanket. She and some other tenants held a blanket and encouraged the 8-year-old to jump. He did, as flames engulfed his apartment behind him. I was in tears. I wanted to save him, said Hurt. By the time he hit the blanket, I fell and cried. He would have died up there. Wow. So that is it's a big story in the Chicago media, even how the neighbors came together in a very quick manner to rescue the 8-year-old boy. But, of course, there were 2 others that died in this thing. So, good morning. How are you? You saw, if you guys watched some of the Chicago media, the showing interviews of people talking about a 2-year-old body just being pulled out of there, completely burned. So there it is. Hey, what about Indianapolis Boulevard today? Got lane closures in Highland, and INDOT announces lane closures on the boulevard over the railroad tracks in Highland, located between Industrial Drive and the Meyer Shopping Center. And the closures are necessary as crews replace the bridge deck. So I'm guessing that, let's say you're going south on the boulevard and you go past Ridge Road and then you go past 45th. And then, all right, before you go up over the tracks, that's Industrial Engine on your left, I think it's called. And on your right is new. It used to be a big car. It's a newer car place. And then when you come down on the other side, it would be, is it Discount Tire or Tire Nation or something like that? Right there where Borders used to be. And then it was Borders, and then it was H. Gregg. And then right now, I don't think it's anything. The place doesn't have a really good reputation right now, that huge building on the left. And it's a beautiful building. I used to go to Borders all the time. My wife was studying for law, her law school, and then she was studying for her bar. It was years ago. That's got to be 20 years now. And I'd take the kids over there, and then I'd come home, and she'd, can you take the kids for a while? Yeah, I'd take them over to Borders, let them run around. And as I got home, she'd go, okay, I got to go to Borders and study. Hey, thanks for beeping. I didn't go out today. I got Chuck Pullen coming in. I wanted to get to a few things. And so when that closed, man, that was kind of a big losing thing. They had that little coffee shop in there. They had all those books. I mean, obviously they're a casualty of the of Amazon books, and you can buy all your books. By the way, has anybody else kind of stopped reading and gone to Audible books? I know that's kind of heresy to say if you've been a reader, like a closet reader all these years. But man, I'll tell you what, they have some people reading these books. I'm listening to one right now about the night killer in California. I don't know what the name of what. Gosh, I can't think of it. But it's about a guy who raped and killed raped like more than 50 and killed more than 10 people all the way throughout California. And he still hasn't been caught, but there's evidence that they're getting closer to getting him. And it's a compelling book, I'm sure, but I'm only listening to it. And that's in a long line of books right now. Anyways, the world's changing, and you know it. Hey, listen, what about sports? Everybody's talking about Loyola. The whole world is coming to Chicago right now and just talking about this Cinderella team. Last time we had one like this was what, George Mason? Or was it Butler? But Sister Jean bobblehead dolls, according to the Bobblehead Association, they are the fastest selling bobblehead doll in the history of bobbleheads. They've sold more than 5,000 in a couple days since they came out, and they just can't make enough that quick. Can't make enough jerseys, Loyola jerseys. They can't make enough shot glasses, all of the stuff that you would think that you need for a Final Four appearance. Of course, it's not Purdue, but I'll tell you what, we'll take Loyola. We'll take Michigan too. One of those two is going to be in the final game. All right, guys. Where's Verley? Is Verley coming? Verley, where are you? Look, Verley's going to text me. She's going to go, Jim, I told you I wasn't coming. And I'm going to be like, Verley, I'm just kind of messing around. Is she at Jackie Sutton's house? Look at that. Hey, you're the reason Borders closed, said one texter. You never bought anything. You know what they call those in marketing? They call those, I forget, there's a specific name for it, where people go and they don't buy anything, they just stick around. All right, guys, speaking of sticking around, it's going to be Chuck Pullen with me. He is going to take Verley's place, believe it or not. And all I have to tell you guys right now is Mr. Fun is here.
Basketball at home, but I think we should go over to Johnny's Tap in Munster for drinks and fun.
Yeah, I like going to Johnny's Tap.
Speaking of fun, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. and Mrs. Fun. Mr. Who and Mrs. Who? Mr. and Mrs. Fun, but they're at Johnny's Tap. Okay, I'll see you there at the corner of Broadmoor and Calumet Avenue.
Yeah, I like going to Johnny's Tap.
Johnny's Tap. New ownership, now smoke-free, and still the home of Mr. and Mrs. Fun.
A real neighborhood type of place.
Baxter Printing, located at 3837 Ridge Road in Highland, is a family-owned and operated union print shop that has been serving Northwest Indiana for over 60 years. Our list of satisfied customers range from union locals and politicians to the everyday entrepreneur working hard to get their business off the ground. We help make that happen through our expert design and advice, creating everything from every-door direct mailers to business cards and banners. Why don't you let the Tarosi family at Baxter Printing assist you in your next project? Call us today at 923-1999 and hear me say, Baxter Printing.
Go ahead, just say it, will you? Because once you say it, it doesn't go away. It just sticks in your head. Baxter Printing.
Would you go to a doctor that isn't board certified? No, of course not. Then why would you trust in a lawyer that isn't board certified? If you've been injured in an accident and it's not your fault, it's someone that's a board certified civil trial specialist by the National Board of Trial Advocacy. Get someone with over 20 years experience who's a member of the Best Lawyers of America and Indiana Super Lawyers and has achieved the highest possible peer review rating of AV by Martindale-Hubbell. Get Gladish. Attorney David Gladish in Highland and his team will deal with the insurance company and its attorneys while you put your life back together. Experience, ratings, and board certification really do matter. Get Gladish. For a free consultation, call 219-838-1900, 838-1900, or visit dgladishlaw.com. That's the letter D, Gladish law.com.
Get Gladish. Get Gladish. They told him, I said, hey, man, that's actually pretty good, that Get Gladish tagline, but lose the exclamation point. And everyone around here knows that when we post things on the website or we post things on Facebook, the number one thing that will get me to call you in the middle of the night is to say, get rid of the exclamation points. And I don't know why that is. I've always really disliked that bit of punctuation. Do not use an exclamation point. Jimmy Mulaney made that mistake early on, and he got 30 lashes in the center of town, and then he never used one again. As a matter of fact, if you ever see an exclamation point used by anybody here, please report them to the principal's office immediately. Hey, let's take a look at what's going on in traffic. 294 around the city, 80 going east and west. And Bishop Ford's getting a little bit tight, 115th to 103rd. But I'll tell you what, Dan Ryan's not bad. Even Jane Byrne isn't too bad. Skyway Toll Road, Borman, I-65 US 30 on Klein Avenue. Jimmy Mulaney! He gets the map up on the screen so you guys could see it also. Jimmy's the Mulaney. How many Mulaney's are there? All right, if you had a phone booth and tried to put the whole Mulaney family in it from Hammond, could you do it? No. There's too many Mulaney's running around, and they're all Irish. You guys just totally Irish, or you got something else? Polish? No? French? Czechoslovakian? So you're Irish and Czechoslovakian? Croatian? So Irish and Croatian. So why did you nod to Czechoslovakian? Is it the same idea, is it? So if you were Irish and you were Croatian, would you be Iratian or would you be Croatish? That would be a question I can't answer right now because I got to tell you that traffic is brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda, proudly serving Northwest Indiana with superior customer service. Let's take a look at the weather. Around here, it's 49 degrees here at the WJOB Strachan Van Til Studios. It's the last day of last week's sale, and I have some pineapple here I'm going to eat in just a little bit. And I'll tell you what, the pineapples are amazing right now. Anyways, it's 49 here, and it is 50 degrees in Porter County, where local 395 of the Ironworkers is. I didn't go outside today. I just wanted to get settled here. We had some technical snafus yesterday. I wanted to make sure we were able to get the show off okay. And then should get up into the mid-50s today and tomorrow, maybe even a little tiny tad of sunshine tomorrow. And then by Thursday, a high of only 47. All right, then the rest of the week, highs right around 50. So a little bit of rain today. And weather brought to you by Ironworkers Local 395. The markets yesterday were up 669, not 6.69 on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It was 669 points. And it is up about $1.50 right now. Let's think about it. I think, everybody, it's time to go into your kitchen. If you're at home still and you're laying in bed and you're listening on your radio on your nightstand, and it's time to go into your kitchen and then look for the Reynolds sign in your kitchen drawers, and then pull out that foil and then turn it into a little bit of bring out a piece and then roll it real tight. And then if you do it just right, you can put it all the way around the brim of your head, from like the forehead all the way around to the back of your head, and tie it back in the back, and it's kind of like a headband. And it's a tinfoil headband because you might need it for the next couple of hours.
I was wondering where you were going with that one.
Chuck Pullen is Verley Suggs. He is not. Chuck Pullen is here. Verley couldn't make it, so you're second string to Verley. How's that feel?
I'm just glad that Verley is not on Facebook because MX made an excellent meme about me last night, and if you haven't seen it, don't drink coffee while you're looking at it.
Can you post that up there, the meme? I got to tell you that when I saw that, I'm like, that is the ugliest woman I've ever seen in my life. and it was Verley's head and hair and everything, and that looks pretty enough. And then there was Chuck Pullen's face put where Verley's was, and I don't know who would think of that, but evidently MX can do those things. We got so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start.
I know, right?
Let's start right there,
Okay.
though. There's a state police investigation looking into the whereabouts of Jackie Sutton. And it comes out that if you say harmful things about someone under an assumed name,
Right.
you could be charged with a felony. So what they're saying is that somebody on Facebook created a fake Facebook account by the name of Jackie Sutton. Oh my gosh, if you guys are watching this, it's crazy. You got to get that off. I just ate breakfast a little while ago. Anyways, it's Chuck Pullen's face or whatever. I don't even know what to do with that. I lost my train of thought. Jackie Sutton. So there's an Indiana State Police investigation, and it's a felony to do that, to create a false identity and say harmful things about somebody. MX, could he be charged? Verley brought that question up, and I'm like, well, maybe.
Well, and his full name is on his Facebook page. But then the other question becomes, what far-reaching implications does it have? You have a lot of people that call this radio station and call themselves Mad Mac, even though their name isn't Mad Mac. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What far-reaching implications does it have? There's a lot of people that go by nicknames, like Lefty. Lefty's not his real name. I mean, there's a lot of people that go out and have nicknames and call this radio station. What implications does it have for all of them? And that was my first concern.
How far does it go?
Right.
Let's take that even further. I don't have an answer to that. And I sometimes like to call myself Jim Studlow instead of Jim Deedlow, just because I can.
Clearly.
Yeah, and so I think I'm going to stop doing that because I don't want to get caught up into the Jackie Sutton investigation. You know what I mean?
I've always been of the opinion that if I'm not willing to say something under my real name and give you my phone number and address afterwards, then I probably shouldn't be saying it. Do you know what I mean? So that's always sort of been my take on it, is that if I'm willing to say something to you, I'm going to use my real name and you're going to know who is saying it. I'm not going to hide behind, some fake profile or something like that.
Chuck Pullen is here just like Baker comes in or Verley comes in. He's just here to hang out with me like Al Hamnick will. There's no official capacity here. He is, of course, still the head of the Libertarian Party here in Lake County. And he also, by way of background, he and I have been total video geeks together for a very long time. And he's not more than partly responsible for us going headlong into the streaming video that you guys may be watching right now. So that's just Chuck. But he's also a pretty deep political observer. You may totally disagree with him, but he tends to back things up with facts. All right, let's go back at this thing.
Right.
So somebody puts up a Facebook page, and they say some pretty deep things about local politicians.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, Oscar Martinez, who is the target of some of it, I guess, gets wind, and he somehow gets someone to track it down to the house of Bobby Cantrell, to the Crown Point School District, where there is talk that perhaps it is maybe it's related to Dowling's wife who works there, and then to, I believe, to Dowling's house. And don't quote me on that, but I thought it was Dowling, and Cantrell is the hint. So they do this, and then they go to Bernie Carter and they hand it over. Bernie Carter says, oh my gosh, this is really sensitive. They hand it over to the Indiana State Police. Honestly, I thought it would end there, and the state police would say, why don't you guys just do your own political hijinks and leave us out of this?
Right.
But they accepted it, and they're conducting a state police investigation. Your take on all of this?
Well, I mean, the first question that I've had since the beginning is, have you seen any of this? I mean, it's basically, at this point, it's a lot of hearsay. Do you know what I mean? I've not seen anything on paper. I've not seen it. I've not gotten a copy of anything that tells me de facto this is what happened. This is a lot of secondhand information at this point. So that's my first question about that, is all of this information about the IP addresses and all of that.
We got...
So do you have something?
No, well, I think what I'll just go by, and I like to do this anymore, is go by what's reported out there in one form or other, and that is being reported by the Times
Right.
and I believe the Post. So why do you have?
Well, I'm just saying that I'm the type of person that until I see it, I'm not going to just take it at face value and say, okay, well, that's what you're saying is happening. So that's my first question: is do we have all the facts, or do we have sort of the cherry picked information here? There may be more information that we don't have yet. So that's sort of my first concern.
Okay, all right. So I want to get to that part about more information, okay? Because I think that's a good point. But just in general, let's just say it's true.
Right.
Okay. So what is your general feeling about this?
So my first question is, if this sort of happened to you or I, would we get a state police investigation into it? I mean, there's a lot of fake profiles. There's a lot of fake profiles in the area, and there's a lot of, political shenanigans that take place with these fake profiles. So this isn't some sort of Jackie Sutton isolated incident. I mean, this happens a lot on Facebook with a lot of these fake profiles. And so the question is, if this were to happen to you or I, would we get the same, or would we be afforded the same luxuries? Would the state police do an investigation to figure out who's insulting Jim Delo? I don't think they would.
Are you kidding?
Right? So that's the first question: is why does Oscar or his group get any special privileges?
I thought about this.
Okay.
And I have been thinking about this because you guys could say what you want, but I started out a newsman here and a reporter, and I don't know as if I ever really kind of lost that thinking. And one of those is you kind of have to have a nose for the big story.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And for some reason, I get a nose that this is a big story, even though I make fun of it. And it's still funny to me that Jackie Sutton is on the loose and Dave Dennison is on the loose. And I really do think that Dave Dennison and Jackie Sutton are getting together after hours, but that's another story altogether.
But I mean, don't you get the feeling that there's much more to this? That I think we're only getting the surface of what's happening here. I think there's much more to this. And, I spent a lot of time looking at the Jackie Sutton Facebook page and comparing it to some other people's verbiage. I mean, that's one of the things about Facebook. You talked about exclamation points. I use too many periods. I use 3 periods all the time. There's all these telltale signs of who's saying things. So a lot of people that they leave their little, their signatures. And there's a lot, to me, there's a lot more to this than we know. We're just getting the surface of this.
Okay, so I was thinking about this. I'm like, why in the heck would the Indiana State Police nose their way into some political wrangling here? I mean, you could see where Oscar and Bernie want to shut this person up some way, and I get it. And maybe teach others a lesson, not don't do stuff that's illegal, which is create a fake Facebook name or a fake WJOB name and then say really bad things about people, because that's illegal. I have a feeling that might get tested if it really went somewhere in terms of free speech. But why would the state police pick that up? And then I started thinking about it. I go, well, now if they're going to do an investigation, right, they have to start looking at if the allegations by Jackie Sutton are true.
Well, and that's,
you know what I mean? Because
exactly.
that's where problems come. If you say stuff that's true, even though it's like really deeply bad about someone, they don't have any recourse.
Well, and that's what I was talking about with a libel lawsuit against a politician is that, there's a reason that there aren't a lot of libel lawsuits, because then people have to sit on the stand and testify about that information. Do you know what I mean? So if you are even the least bit concerned that somebody has information on you, you're not going to file a libel lawsuit, because now all of a sudden they're going to start bringing all these people into court to testify about this information they have, and it could open up who knows what kind of.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, all right, the Indiana State Police, which has done nothing, and all of this corruption that has gone down,
right,
it's all been done by the feds, right?
Right.
And they're maybe they see an opening, say, hey, you know what? Let's go up there and see if we can start. First thing we got to do is investigate if these allegations are true, and some of them are very deep. I won't even repeat them. So it's almost as if you could just picture Republicans or state police people just kind of shaking their head going, these people are fighting with each other like this. All they're doing is basically inviting us in
to dig through their garbage,
to dig through their garbage legally. And as a matter of fact, not only can we dig through their garbage to read all their emails and see what's true and what's not true, they've asked us to do it.
Right. Well, and Verley made the point I think a week or two ago about the idea of these old people used to do the flyers. They used to hand out flyers. Somebody'd make this flyer and hand it out to people. I was talking to a guy the other day, and his opponent had basically an email, and he taped the email to the door of everybody who had his sign in their yard and things like that. So again, just a high-tech version of the typical political shenanigans. But you're right, none of that stuff has ever been investigated before by anybody, and it's curious that would happen now.
Well, part of what it is it's all part of the sheriff's race here. And if you guys have been under a rock, or you happen to be driving down I-94 and you see, you happen to stumble on this, or you're watching it and you've stumbled on it, our sheriff just went away for 15 years and 8 months sentence in federal prison for a bribery scheme involving tow truck operators. And that gives the new sheriff's race, the caucus put in a guy named Oscar Martinez. So now there's so many people that want this job. I still don't understand why there's so many people running for it, but there is. And the race got even weirder when Betty Dominguez filed.
Right.
What's happening there? If she filed for the Democratic primary, what's going on there?
I wouldn't even comment other than if you could whistle your circus music right about now. I mean, that's just, it's typical. I always come back to this, is that we kind of already know how things are going to work out in the region. It's the show that leads up to it. That's just, that's always the most entertaining, is because you never know who's going to show up, what's going to happen, the Jackie Sutton. I mean, you just never know what's going to happen leading up to it. And that's what makes it so interesting. Do you know what I mean? It's depressing and interesting at the same time.
I always tell the story that in 1985, I was sitting in the WJOB newsroom, and Irv Lewin and Larry Peterson, I was all mad about something, and they basically said to me, you just got to enjoy the entertainment of Lake County politics. Otherwise, it'll make you cry.
Right.
And from that moment on, I've kind of taken that view. Maybe in the early 2004, 2005, when we just bought JOB and bought the newspaper, I thought I'd follow Billy Baker's way. Oh, we got to make a change, and that was a brief insanity. But for the most part, as long as people aren't getting hurt, you got to enjoy the entertainment. But that is the problem. People are getting hurt.
Right. Well, it's kind of like, I always follow. Your handwriting is atrocious, right?
Right.
But I've always followed Illinois politics. I always thought that was interesting as well. I ran into Governor Quinn the Sunday before the election, and he's the kind of guy that I never cared for his politics. And but when you meet him in person, and you kind of you're not talking politics, because it wasn't a situation where we could have a deep philosophical discussion about that. They're personable people, and it's kind of hard not, I didn't like the guy, but then I met him in person and chatted with him. It's hard not to like him. Do you know what I mean? So it's like one of those things where at the end of the day, even people that you disagree with politically, at the end of the day, most of them are still good people. It just, we have differences. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But don't you get the feeling when you saw Quinn show up, he lost, right?
Whatever he lost. Attorney General is running for, yeah.
Didn't you? I mean, I hate to say this, and I feel bad to even think this. It's like, as a Catholic, you're supposed to retrain yourself to not think in these ways. All I was thinking is, like, can't he just go away? When he was showing up there, I'm like, man, you had a nice run. You did a lot. Now you want to get back in the game, and you want to be in this. I mean, to be honest, you get that feeling here in Lake County a lot,
absolutely.
Too. Yeah.
Right.
But, I mean, just for Quinn, I was like, why doesn't he go away?
But for some people, it's like that's all they know, though, that they made a career out of politics one way or the other. And then, once you become governor, it's like, what do you do next? You're right. You should take up a fishing pole and, head off to the lake or something. But
either that or, there's plenty of things you can do. You can go on radio. You can go and, become part of the media. You can get into some think tank. You can administer, there's plenty of things you can get hired to. But I think what happens is that people just want the attention.
Well, and I think that's it. I mean, once you're governor, you get a nice pension out of the deal. He's done a number of things. Like you said, you're a lifelong politician. You get a nice pension. You have no reason to need to get back into politics and to fight all that. So, I mean, I guess that's sort of the question is, I remember seeing him when he was governor and having, 5 state police following him around with this big escort. Now he just walks in alone, and it's, you're right. I mean, it was funny. Did you hear about what happened to Governor Christie after he was replaced as governor, he went to leave and he went to the airport and he started to use the special VIP TSA line. And they said, "You're not governor anymore. You can't do that." You know what I mean? Literally, he was just so used to having that special treatment at the airport. He tries to just walk right in. They say, "You're not the governor anymore. Like, you're just a regular schmuck today." You know what I mean?
Schmuck 1, schmuck 2. He's
Right.
Chuck pulling. All right. I want to extend this now. We started to talk about, and if you guys want to call in, I'm going to take a break and then we'll take your phone calls. Okay. 219-845-1100. All right. We talked about the John Bunsich situation.
Right.
Okay. You and I have never really talked about it on the air, but it was just mentioned. And basically, he was given cash from tow truck operators
Right.
that he did not report on his campaign finance. And so they're saying that they were bribed so that the tow truck operators would get more tows, and that was how it worked. Okay. And because of that, he got 15 years and 8 months. All right. I want to know how that differs from Cohen giving Stormy Daniels $130,000. In other words, that was not written down as a campaign donation.
Right.
And I don't really care if Donald Trump has an affair with Stormy Daniels. And you know what? As an American male, if you tell me that you're like, he didn't go up in your, you just have a little bit more respect for him after seeing pictures of Stormy Daniels, then you're probably lying. So now Donald Trump's attorney gives her $130,000 10 days before the election to shut up.
Right.
And it was so that she would shut up so he could get elected. At least that's how you see it. And if so, the Trump organization would have had to put that down as $130,000 of contribution. They didn't do it. What do you see here?
Well, and I know you're not going to like this answer because I had a feeling you're going to bring this up. You run into a lot of people that come to you and say, Jim, you should really watch this TV show or you should watch that TV show. And you think to yourself, that sounds like an interesting show. I'm just never going to have the time to watch that show. I just don't have the time to sit there and Netflix binge or whatever they call it. I've kind of gotten to the point where I look at all what's happening here, what's happening in Indianapolis and Chicago and Springfield, Washington, as like TV shows. And I've kind of this Donald Trump thing. I can't get into that TV show. Do you know what I mean? This whole Stormy Daniels and the Russians. It's just like, because I think of it this way. You and I are we're small parts of the show in Lake County. Do you know what I mean? And I'd much rather be focused on what's happening here in Lake County, what's happening in the state. I just can't get into this whole, like, people just message me constantly, "Oh, Stormy Daniels this, and watch 60 Minutes. I just can't get into it. I mean, it's almost like this TV show is too perverse for me. Do you know what I mean? I just can't get into following this. And at work, everybody's always talking about this stuff, and I walk into the break room and CNN's on, and it's just like wall to wall. It's like I walk into the break room every day, and it's like they're telling the same story, for 3 days straight. I just can't get into it. I mean, and that's just kind of my opinion.
I don't think that you're that abnormal. I really do. I believe that there are basically what you're talking about is tuning out to it.
Right.
And there are a lot of people that want to do that, and I get that. But
no, and I understand that there's a situation there, but my concern is the people that are most entrenched in these stories are the ones that want to see Donald Trump go away. So it's basically, did you see what Stormy Daniels did? We hope Trump gets impeached. Did you see this whole Russian thing? Did you see what he did today? And he'll be gone soon. I mean, so the people that seem to be most entrenched in these stories, the people that are sort of, to me, in my circle, the people that are most obsessed with this are in it because they want to see Donald Trump go away.
That makes sense.
And they're asking me how I feel about, President Pence and things like that. I mean, that's the whole thing, is that the people that want him to go away so badly are the ones that are just waiting for the next well, look at Stormy Daniels, look at Rush. They're just looking for an opportunity to get rid of him.
I agree with that, and I think you're right. As CNN is almost like an ongoing, look what Trump did next. Maybe this is the end,
right.
And you get the feeling from a lot of the commentators. I want to go backwards on this one though. I want to know what would have happened, and this is where I'm headed. What would have happened if Bunsich would have just written down that he took the $15,000 from the tow truck operators?
And I always think,
see what I'm
right.
saying? Is like. I mean, there's a link here between the Bunsich case and the Cohen-Trump case.
Right.
I don't know what it is yet.
Well, and I always go back to Al Capone. Al Capone did all these things, and he went down for tax evasion. Do you know what I mean? He went to Alcatraz for tax evasion. He was the only one to go to Alcatraz for tax evasion. So, he did all of these horrible things that they could never pin on him, but they pinned him on tax evasion. So the question I've always asked is, if Al Capone would literally have written on his taxes, I got 20 grand for killing this guy and I stole this truck, would he have still gone to jail? Do you know what I mean? So it's one of those where, I'm drawing a blank here. I want to use the right name. Was it Dennis Haskert that went to jail for sending $9,900 to the kid who, over and over?
He paid
so
the kid
I'm
off.
just making sure I had the right name.
Yeah.
So, same deal. So he didn't go to jail for what he did to that person. He went to jail for sending $9,900 over and over again and skirting certain laws. Do you know what I mean?
But if you're going to use that as as an analogy to the Bunsich case, we don't have any evidence that he was doing other crimes.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
I
You have no evidence of anything other than he didn't report the money.
He didn't report the money, and that is the parallel here, I think, to what I'm at first I was looking at this Stormy Daniels thing. I'm like, you know what? I hate to say it. I don't think this is a big story. He had an affair, big deal. And then I did watch the 60 Minutes interview, and I'm like, man, the feds, they got all these rules, and if you violate one, they can just slam you to the door with it.
Well, and that's why I tell people all the time that start getting involved in politics is that, even on the state level, that you're right. Every little thing you do is under the microscope.
Why would you possibly run for office in Lake County?
Because
I think that's what Chuck says, and I think I've heard him say it. All right, guys, I'll be right back here. If you guys want to talk to us, 219-845-1100. We got plenty more. Be right back on the voice and face of the region.
Laborers Local 41, together with Indiana Laborers Training Center and our signatory employers, provide state-of-the-art instruction in all areas of the construction industry, from hazardous material handling and environmental remediation to road construction and highway safety. Remember to slow down in construction zones and that the Local 41 members working there are mothers, fathers, coaches, and mentors. Labor's Local 41. We build Indiana in more ways than one.
Jedi's Garden Family Restaurant, located at the corner of Klein and Ridge, is Griffith's locally owned family restaurant with a down-home feel and made-from-scratch favorites you'll love. Open daily from 5 a.m. to midnight, Jedi's features all-day breakfast, lunch, dinner, and night digs. For family-friendly dining with free Wi-Fi, stop in today at Jedi's. With your meal, make sure you try our award-winning lemon rice soup. Mention WJOB to receive 20% off your order at Jedi's.
Save the date, April 19th, for the 2018 Fair Housing Act's 50th Anniversary Celebration and Awards Reception being held at the Center for Visual and Performing Arts in Munster from 3 to 8 p.m. At 3 p.m. there will be a continuing education class. From 5 to 6:30 p.m. enjoy a cocktail reception, and 6:30 to 8 p.m. program and awards. Tickets in advance are $35 or $45 at the door. A portion will go to NWIRA programs. That's April 19th from 3 to 8 p.m. Hosted by Lake County Housing Task Force and Bankers Community Council of NWIRA.
Hey, guys. Every once in a while, you just want to have a little fun.
Men, are you taking Viagra or Cialis for ED? ED should not stand for expensive drugs. If you're taking Viagra, talk with your doctor about Sildenafil. Now you could get the same active ingredient in Viagra in generic 20 milligram tablets for less than $2 each, saving over $30 per dose. Available at Vito's Pharmacy. Call us 219-228-7200 or visit us at vitospharmacy.com.
Vito's Pharmacy.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's 6:29 in the Calumet region. I'm Jim Dietlow, host of JED in the region. Been on the radio off and on since 1985. So if you're getting tired of hearing me, now you can watch me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Just go in and type it in the search bar of any one of those, and you'll be able to see it. And I think we're going to talk about Facebook in just a little bit with Chuck Pullins here. If you want to jump in, 219-845-1100. Let's start with the weather. It's kind of a rainy day out. It's wet out, but it's wet out, but then you don't even feel the rain coming down. So it's cloudy with a bit of rain is what AccuWeather is saying. It's 49 degrees here at the WJOB Strachan Van Til Studios. It's certified electrician in Maryville. It is also 49 degrees, and it is 50 degrees along the state line in Hammond here at local 599 of the Carpenters. And then tomorrow, a high of 56, mainly cloudy. But Thursday, you get it only a high of 47, and you get some more rain. But by Friday, partly sunny and cool. Beautiful day, high of 50. And then Saturday, it actually has some sun and some showers in the same day, high around 50 also. And there you go. Weather brought to you by our good friends at Laborers 41, of which I am a proud alum of that fine union. In terms of the traffic, 294 around the city looks pretty good. 80 going east and west looks good to Bishop Ford, a little bit tight, 115th to 103rd. Skyway, Toll Road, Barman, I-65 are all moving along pretty doggone well. And traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda, proudly serving Northwest Indiana with superior customer service. All right, what about Aurora University, I'm sorry. And if you're looking to get an online degree, go to aurora.edu, business, computer science, and more. Chuck Pullen is with me here today. Let me get a couple of news events out. Huge fire in Gary on Sunday morning kills 2 little kids, and then a dramatic rescue of an 8-year-old who jumps from the 4th floor and is caught in a sheet or in a blanket by onlookers who reacted fairly quickly and were able to save him. The other 2 kids on the 4th floor did not make it. And many of the displaced residents have been put over at the Majestic Star Casino, and we're still waiting for definitive. It looks, if you watch some of the interviews that were done yesterday on some of the Chicago television, that the kids were left alone and were playing with the stove and may have lit some pants on fire and put them in a closet so they didn't get in trouble. And so they're not suspecting foul play in this one right now, as far as I can tell. And in terms of traveling around the region today, you're going to have, it's already a big problem to drive from Hammond to Cherville on US 41. Well, that's just going to get quite a bit more difficult today, as the bridge over the railroad tracks in Highland between Industrial Drive and Meyer Shopping Center is going to have some lane closures as they work on the deck. And that is, no, I'm sorry, it doesn't begin until Monday. My fault. I thought it was today. It begins on Monday, and that's going to go through mid-November. Gosh. Driving the boulevard anytime is already a problem. Now they're going to work on the deck, and they have to. This is just one of many Indiana State construction projects. They're just going to make it very difficult to drive around the region.
And it'll wrap up right around the time of the Christmas rush in that area as well.
Yes,
that'll be interesting.
That's hopefully they'll get it done for that, because those stores depend on that. Many of them.
It's bad enough when you have 2 lanes. I cannot imagine.
Also, a big fire overnight in Lake Station, and I guess
this was the 2600 block of Central. They believe the fire started at the King Gyros and spread to Nancy's Cafe and the Optical Eye Center. Fairly large fire from the pictures I'm seeing.
And also to, just reiterate, there is a $10,000 reward for the any lead to the conviction of the murderer in the case of Terry Conley. Terry, of course, was my buddy. 15 days younger than I am. And he was shot and killed on January 4th, driving in Gary by the Gary Miller train station. And the priest called it a stray bullet, talked to family members. It looks as if somebody just kind of pulled up while he was driving and just shot him dead right there on US 12. So we're going to have his mom in later, or not his mom, his sister in later this week, and we're going to talk about that. It's actually not too far from the Lakeshore Dunes apartment complex there in Miller. So, Chuck Pullen, what's going on? You want to talk?
So let's talk to Lenny.
Let's see how Lenny's doing. Chuck Pullen's with me. Lenny, how are you?
Hey, Jed. I just want to refresh everyone's memory of what the traffic on 41 is going to be like when that bridge in Highland at the south end that's closed. It was only about 9 years ago that it was down to one lane. And if you remember, traffic backed up well beyond Ridge Road. It was just a solid wall heading southbound. And then northbound, traffic backed up over what was the old steel bridge when that was replaced. But then people coming up over that bridge from 30 heading north, they didn't see the traffic stop, and there was an accident daily from the traffic backed up because of that one-lane bridge. So why the state, who owns 41 and manages it, will allow such a long time window frame for these projects? Let's face it, there's not a whole lot of construction companies out there that do this. Obviously, there's only so many that bid. I think the bid is all rigged, and those that get the bids obviously are spread out all over the state, and they can't do these projects in a concise time frame.
Well, Lenny,
let's inconvenience the driver for a whole 6 months, cause death, property destruction while we do it, because look what happened to 65 when they did that little, let's cut more holes in there so we can get more frozen water and ice fissures to crack it up even more.
Well, here's the thing, though, Lenny. Do you remember, when they closed, when they're doing the steel bridge? I lived over that area at that time. What was worse than that part was that a lot of us used 213th as the way around that. Okay, when the steel bridge was closed, and then so about halfway through that construction, they went and closed 213th for a couple months. Do you know what I mean? So it was sort of like we closed this road. And then now the detour gets closed. We've seen that happen in the region a few times where it's like, we planned one project, somebody planned a different project, we didn't coordinate, so now, the road's closed, now the detour's closed, and now nobody can get anywhere.
Here's the big problem. The main problem, how come there are not any more east or west streets across those tracks that run parallel to 41?
Right.
In the whole town of Schererville, you can cross them at Main, you can cross them at 30, and then 77th and 85th Street. That same set of tracks coming out of the mill in East Chicago, if you follow it straight north, there's a crossing every block. So that's the main issue. Everything gets forced onto 41. Everything gets forced onto 30 because there's no other roads crossing tracks or drainage creeks anywhere in the region.
All right. Well, I think what he's talking about the tracks that run along the east side of US 41. Everybody knows where that is. They go behind Target.
The ones that you've got stuck by a few times and had a few interesting Facebook videos about. That's one where you got stuck.
Yes, exactly. So the question there, Lenny, is you would have to cut a road from US 41 over to Kennedy, like say halfway between Main Street and US 30, right?
Yes, there's already, believe it or not, there's already some little kind of ancient tunnel there because there's another set of tracks, those tracks that go from Linwood to Griffith that has the increased train. I believe it's the Canadian National.
That's
there.
The old EJ&E, which is now the Canadian National, right?
Yeah, so it's.
Yeah, but the point there, Lenny, is I was under the impression that the people over there on the Kennedy side did not want that. In other words, if you cut a road in there, if you take Kennedy, it's a 2-lane road. It's not meant to hold the traffic it's getting now.
That's right. Kennedy comes to a dead end at what's called Junction.
Yeah.
And then heads into Joliet Street into downtown Schererville.
If you dumped another 10,000 cars a day or maybe 15 onto that road, you'd have just a nightmare over there.
Well, and that's what happens when there's problems on 41. They all end up on Kennedy, and then there's a train over there, something like that, and it becomes just an absolute parking lot.
So here's the thing. We're going to let maybe $100,000 homes affect the traffic in this region. It just boggles my mind whenever development happens, and there's some 80-year-old shack with a $100,000 value that heaven forbid, we need to observe this property owner's rights. It's called eminent domain. Look what they did to at least widen Main Street. They took those 4 houses out where the Albert's Jeweler now stands. They gave them fair market value for it and probably above.
All right. Hey, Lenny.
I'll just end it with this.
Sure.
A lot of traffic needs to get around that southern tip of Lake Michigan, no matter how far north or how far south. And we just need roads. We need bridges. No one wants to pay for them. We're going to suffer through a insufferable traffic summer like we do every year, just in time for the snow and ice. So,
hey, there you go. Hey, nice portrayal of the region. Thanks a lot, Lenny. Talk to you. You know, he brings up a point there that, you know, what is the ultimate cause of the lack of coordination? In other words, you talk about, oh, you can't get around because we haven't planned well between the communities. Well, the same thing happens with the development. And Ryan, can you get Ron Hunter on here soon? He's a friend of mine, and he knows more about drainage in Lake County than anybody does. And his point is that the towns don't talk to each other.
Right.
So all of a sudden you don't know that these guys are building a subdivision and all their water is going to go into the next town.
Sure.
And nobody's planned for this because it's so many little different towns, and you don't have like a person.
If only we had some
charge.
sort of regional planning commission to handle such a thing. You know?
Yeah, but I mean,
or three of them. Either way.
So we don't really have a powerful structure to say, hey, if you're going to build those 100 homes, you have to help us with this road over here, and you got to put in 4 drainage ponds so none of that water goes up there and floods them in Munster and Highland and Hammond.
Right.
And that's just how it is. But you don't have those regional things being done here, and you get problems like this.
Right. No, and I mentioned, last time when you were talking about, when we were all sort of on edge with Hart Ditch and the Little Cow, is that we need to look at the technology. We need to look at what technology, we talked about permeable streets and things like that. There's a lot of technology that we're not using that we should start looking into. So instead of just, collect all the water, throw it in a Hart Ditch, we should start looking at what options we have.
Hey, let's talk to Zube. Hey, Zube, did my nephew get assigned yet by the Sox? Did you see it at all where he might have gotten assigned in the minors?
I haven't seen or heard anything yet. I'm not gonna lie to you, Jed. Cubs fan. Cubs news comes first. I really don't. Even though it's a local, it's your nephew. I haven't checked up on it, but I can, and I can report to you later on in the week.
No, that was asked explicitly because I know that you're a Cubs fan. Just so you know.
All right.
Yeah, good enough. Hey, so what's going on?
So you're telling me starting next week for the next 8 months they're going to be doing bridge work on 41?
Now, my understanding was that there was actually 2 bridges that were being worked on simultaneously. Did you see that?
I did hear that, but I only have the one thing that starts on Monday.
Okay.
I think there's other work that is later in the summer. But on Monday, that big bridge, basically be right by Meyer, they're going to be closing certain lanes. It's going to be restricted to 1 lane in each direction. How's that feel?
Not good, considering aren't they about to break ground on the overpass on 45th and Munster this year? Isn't that supposed to go down this year too?
You'd have to ask them because they've been talking about that for years now.
I don't think that affects Calumet Avenue immediately.
No, it's going to be just the 45th section.
Yeah, so
first.
if you look at it, if you know the area, Southwood hits into 45th. I think they start down there. I mean, it's been a while since I looked at the projected plans, but they weren't going to hit Calumet till the end of the project.
Well, at some point, though, there is a plan to close 45th, which is a major east-west road, because they have to move the tracks onto 45th Avenue.
You know how many people are getting anxiety because we're talking about this right now?
Well, why don't we just make it a full trifecta and redo Route 30 while we're at it this year too again?
Well, don't say that because then there'll be something will happen on Route 30.
No, there's there's plans on Route 30 this summer.
Oh wow, I was just being facetious, Jim.
No, I saw. You know what? And I got a little criticism for this because I brought out the plans. I think it was 29 major road construction projects this summer right here in Lake County, and I looked at it and. Governor Holcomb called in, and he was all excited about it, and he was here to promote it. And I'm like, Governor Holcomb, what's going to go on here? I mean, we have trouble now getting around the region. He's like, hey, man, you just got to put up with it. You wanted the roads fixed? Here's how it is. And you know what? He's right. I don't think we have any choice. If they're going to give us the money to fix the roads, it's going to be planned poorly, but at least it's going to get fixed.
Oh yeah, the civil engineers on the job probably got their degree through, they beat the game Sim City or something, They just threw them a certificate through the mail or something. Well, we'll take it day by day, I guess. And if it gets really bad, you might be seeing Zube on a skateboard rather than driving a car this summer.
You got it, man.
Maybe I'll get a. Do they still make Segways?
Oh yeah, you can get a Segway. You can get one of those little razor scooters.
I think you got.
Maybe I'll get a Segway and I'll pimp it out.
All right, man. I believe that you would. Good hearing from you, Zube. Hey guys, 6:50 or 6:45 in the Calumet region. Chuck, over the weekend, Valparaiso, Indianapolis, a couple of smaller demonstrations here in the Calumet region. We've done a lot of talk here about school safety and gun control, but on Washington, D.C., there was one of the larger rallies that has happened in a while.
Right.
And it was all about gun violence.
Well, and so in Valparaiso specifically, there was a anti-violence rally, which to me, those rallies were thinly veiled. You know, you're not going to call it a take away the guns rally. You're not going to call it a, more gun laws rally. You're going to call it an anti-violence rally. And then there were several, in the case of Valparaiso, there were several anti-violence rallies that were Second Amendment people. And again, I mean, at the end of the day, you had two groups that vehemently disagree, and there was no violence or, rioting or anything like that. So that's an important key. I think, there was some things that happened maybe in Indianapolis where there was some, words exchange, but for the most part, both sides got to protest and have their opinions heard and things like that. So in that aspect, we're doing our First Amendment right,
The young people out of Parkland seem to be capturing the attention of America right now.
Right.
They're certainly capturing the attention of the younger folks in America.
Right. But what's interesting, though, is that you say that. But so, for instance, something came out during the Illinois primaries. They had 25% voter turnout during the Illinois primaries, 3% voter turnout for millennials. So at the, what bothers me is that these groups come out and they say, we're going to change the world, and then they can't bother to vote. Do you know what I mean? So that's a huge issue. And I think that even in the rally, David Hogg said, who's going to vote, in 2019 and things like that. So there's that aspect of, you can go to rallies, you can go on Facebook and say all you want, but if you're not going to show up to vote, you're not going to accomplish anything. So that's the first key for that group. That key demographic is you got to show up and vote more than 3%. Do you know what I mean?
The actual issue, though, is a questioning of the need for high-powered rifles and the need to be able to buy a high-powered rifle or a semi-machine gun so easily.
Okay.
And it's almost a contextual shift would be one way of looking at it, or a paradigm change in the way that the thinking is always gone here in America, is that right to bear arms means right to bear arms no matter what.
Right.
And these kids are getting some momentum with questioning that thinking.
Correct. Right. And, I always want to be the person that looks at the facts of the situation before I make the decision. And, we could spend the next hour talking about the numbers behind this, one way or the other. And I guess my concern is everyone involved in this looking at the facts, or are they, are we asking our lawmakers to make decisions based on emotional reaction instead of statisticals? You know what I mean? Is when you look at the statisticals, gun violence is trending downwards over the last 25 years. When you look at, President Obama was the country's greatest gun salesman. Do you know what I mean? Gun sales skyrocketed under Obama.
Remington just filed bankruptcy.
Right. And that's a whole different story of bad business management. But when you look at Black Friday is traditionally what we look at as a metric. Black Friday background checks have been setting records every year for the last 3 or 4 years now. So when you look at it and you think of it in that terms, gun violence, the gun deaths have been trending downward for the last 25 years, yet gun sales have skyrocketed.
219-845-1100. Call us back, Cindy, if you'd like. 219-845-1100. Chuck Pullen is here. Chuck, is that really the issue?
No, and it's not. And
I think the issue right now is kids in schools, semi-automatic machine guns. I've seen these things. I've shot them.
Right.
I mean, I can't believe that you could go in and buy one of these and have it in your house. I'm like, fine, give me that thing. and I will shoot it, and even I can hit it without, just a reasonably fair shot, and then go tit, 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 tit. I'm like, wow, that is just amazing. As a kid shooting 30-06, 240 Winchesters, that kind of stuff, I can't believe those are available so easily.
So to your point, a couple of local councils have passed resolutions because our county and town councils can't pass regulations for gun control. So for instance, last night, Highland passed a resolution basically calling for common sense gun laws. So the town of Highland passed this resolution last night. The county council passed a similar resolution a few weeks ago, and it's calling for common sense gun laws. And a lot of it has to do with background checks and mental health and things like that. And what's interesting to me is that if your intention is to reduce the number of school shootings, everything that we're discussing as far as new common, quote, common sense gun laws doesn't address that issue. So that's my first concern, is that it's sort of like saying, texting, accidents while texting and driving have skyrocketed, so we should put breathalyzer interlocks on everybody's car. You're attacking the wrong issue for one. And that's the question that I have for a lot of these people is, what is your intention? We talk about common sense gun laws. That's the new buzzword, is common sense gun laws. And not a lot of people can put their finger on what that means. When you ask them, say, what does that mean? Say, well, more regulations and more laws. And, you talked about this a little bit yesterday with the FCC. Does more regulation solve problems, or does it create more problems? You deal with the FCC personally. You talked about this extensively yesterday. And so that's always my question is, people sort of say we need more laws, but they really can't tell you what the end goal is. Well, we want more laws, we want fewer gun deaths, and yet you really can't relate to me how the certain laws you want to put in place will prevent school shootings. So if we take the last 10 school shootings, or take them all and look at how the person acquired their weapons. Several of them took them from their parents. In the case of Newtown, he killed his mother, took her weapons. That's a very hard thing. Most responsible gun owners have their weapons locked up, but especially if you have a teenager kid, they know how to get to your guns and things like that. That's a hard thing to fight. But then on all of the other instances, whether they used an assault weapon or a pistol or anything like that, they acquired them legally. And these new rules that you want to put into place don't address that. So I look at, okay, we have the last 10 shooters. Would all of these new rules that anybody's proposing so far, would they have stopped any of those shootings? And the answer is no.
Well, ultimately, it would have to be a change in the way that we view guns. In other words, folks are looking at the Australian model where, they basically eradicated most of the guns in the whole society.
Right. And we look at Australia as a model for that aspect of it. And I always mention Switzerland because Switzerland goes the other way and everybody has a gun, and yet there are no school shootings. The number of gun deaths is almost non-existent. So it's one of those, you can look at two cultures. You look at, so I always look at England, for instance. England started by banning guns. I think it was 30 years ago. They started by banning guns. And so recently they've started banning knives. And I mean, I've got pictures. It's become a joke. They literally are confiscating scissors, and they're literally like, you go to the store and kitchen knives are locked up behind lock and key because now they can't get guns. So then they think people are going after knives. They literally have knife turn-ins the way we have gun turn-ins. And then you say, okay, well, you've eliminated the guns and then you've eliminated the knives. Crime has gone away, right? No. Acid attacks are at a record high in England. Do you know what I mean? So it's like acid attacks. Have you ever heard of an acid attack? And so, I mean, people find a way. Violence doesn't go away because you take one of the methodologies away. Violence just shifts its method. Do you know what I mean? So you have like an acid, you can't get guns, you can't get knives in England. So now they're attacking each other with acid.
He's Chuck Pullen. I told you, get the tinfoil out. Be right back.
Rush Radiosurgery deploys revolutionary technology in the fight against prostate cancer in just 5 outpatient treatments. With radiosurgery treatment for prostate cancer, there is no pain, no surgery, and you can go back to your normal activities right after treatment. Prostate cancer does not fight fair, and neither should you. For more information, contact Rush Radiosurgery at 312-942-4600 or visit us at rushradiosurgery.com.
No case is typical. Results will vary by patient, and there's no guarantee other patients will experience these results. Fill your garage with your dream car during the Honda Dream Garage Spring event going on now at Napleton's River Oaks Honda. They're Northwest Indiana's destination for new and certified pre-owned Hondas. Napleton's River Oaks Honda has a huge selection of brand new and certified pre-owned Civics, Accords, CRVs, and Pilots. Come find out why you always get our best deal at River Oaks Honda. As always, Indiana residents pay Indiana sales tax right off 8094 on Torrance Avenue or online at riveroakshonda.com.
Napleton, second to none since 1931.
What gets you fired up when you think about college? Explore your roar at Purdue University Northwest. With 2 exciting campuses in Hammond and Westville, more than 70 areas of study, and NCAA Division II athletics, Purdue Northwest offers it all at an excellent value. Learn more at pnw.edu and apply today. That's pnw.edu. Join the pride at Purdue Northwest.
When you're in the dark, where do you turn to find a trusted professional who can assure the safety of your home or business electrical system? Certified Electrician is here to help. Looking for a highly skilled electrical contractor for your next construction project? CertifiedElectrician.com is where to find one. We connect you with pre-screened electrical professionals living right here in Northwest Indiana. Experts in residential, commercial, voice data video, and signage. Certified Electrician can fulfill all your electrical needs. Visit CertifiedElectrician.com.
Do you have a family history of heart disease or diabetes? St. Catherine Hospital Cardiovascular Prevention Center providers are offering free assessments to help determine your risk for heart disease and other related medical conditions. On Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 9 to 11:30 a.m., you can stop by the center at 7217 Indianapolis Boulevard in Hammond for assessments like an ABI leg circulation test, blood pressure, body mass index, random glucose assessment, and more. You must be 18 or older, and walk-ins are welcome. You have only one body. Let St. Catherine Hospital of Community Healthcare System help you take care of it. You can also call 219-392-7CVP to book an appointment today.
Do I have to show these kids everything on how to get high?
I don't know. Eating detergent. I mean, I thought getting soap in your mouth was a bad thing.
How about this? If you want to play with...
When did getting your mouth washed out with soap not become a bad thing?
Yeah, but Matt, here's a good thing. If you want to mess with the Tide Pods, throw a load in.
Yeah, while you're in there.
Yeah, while you're messing with the Tide Pods, separate the laundry. No, hottest for the whites. Yeah. Okay? I've done many loads, kid.
Yeah.
I do the laundry in the house.
6:58 in the Calumet region. I'm Jim Deedlow, top of the hour here on AM 1230, WJOB on 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana, the voice and face of the region. And there's just another regulation that I've just complied with. Mm-hmm. And the traffic around the city on 294, that's moving along pretty well in both directions. 80 going east and west looks pretty good. The Bishop Ford up the gut of the Southland, 115, maybe 125th, and up to the southern end of the Dan Ryan is tight. We'll keep an eye on it, but you know what? It seems, watch the Bishop Ford once you get to the merge there. The Skyway and the toll road, they're moving well. So is the Borman I-65 and US 30. Don't forget, on Monday, the Indianapolis Boulevard corridor is going to be just entirely different, as the bridge between Meyer and Industrial Drive is going to go down to one lane in both directions, and that's going to last, let's see, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, so 7.5 months you'll have that menagerie going as they fix the bridge deck on US 41. And traffic is brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda, proudly serving Northwest Indiana from Torrance Avenue. Let's take a look at weather. And this one is brought to you by our good friends at Rush Radio Surgery. We just heard from them. Hey, if you got a cancer diagnosis and you don't know what to do, start by looking at rushradiosurgery.com. A high of 54 today. It's still hanging out right at about 50 degrees all the way across the region, from local 395 in Portage all the way to local 41 in Munster. And it goes up to mid-50s today, high of 55 or so. Same thing tomorrow, mainly cloudy and a high of 55. Then it gets a little cooler on Thursday with some rain. And let's take a look at the markets. Yesterday, we're up 669 on the Dow. I didn't even think that was possible. And you are up $1.40 right now on the Dow as we go forward. Hey, no Verley today, as Chuck Pullen has decided to be Verley today. And we just talk about a number of things. If there's something you want Chuck to address as the resident, what shall we call you, Chuck? What would your, I was just thinking about it. These guys that are, that I see sometimes that you talk to on Facebook, Mad Mac, MX, and Lefty all have fake names.
Right.
At least you go by Chuck Pullen.
Right.
But these guys are in danger of violating Indiana state statutes by, putting together a false identity. And if they say anything that somebody considers harmful about them, they could be up for a felony.
Right. And that's the concerning thing, is that when you look at, laws that you didn't even know existed, and all of a sudden you're being charged with a felony based on a law that you didn't even know we had. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of that happens, and people talk about that all the day. Every day is that you commit multiple felonies you don't even realize that you committed, and I guess that's a concern, is that you talked yesterday about the difference between radio regulation and Facebook regulation and things like that. Even the question of putting out false information, you're putting out disparaging information about a person, but even there are people that want to start charging people criminally for putting out, fake news and things like that. And I know Zuckerberg's been cracking down a lot on what he considers fake news. YouTube has been cracking down a lot on what they consider conspiracy videos and things like that. So there's this, on the public side, you have the government wanting to crack down on false information or contrary information. And then on the private side, you have Facebook, YouTube, all of these major companies saying, we're not going to allow people to put out conspiracy videos. My understanding is YouTube pulled most of the gun videos, many of the gun videos, like how-to videos and things like that, got pulled. And so now, an interesting thing, because capitalism always finds a way. So now you have gun videos moving off of YouTube and moving on to adult websites, because that's the only place that will allow them to show their how-to gun videos. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where, okay, well, YouTube pulled you off, so now you're moving over to a different place. The information doesn't go, it just moves.
You know what? And I think that's good logic when you talk about Facebook, and that is the topic du jour on the front page of the USA Today. And I know a number of people have asked me, say, hey, what are you guys going to do? You're streaming video Facebook, and Facebook is losing viewers. I could fill it in our numbers, to be honest with you, on Facebook.
Right.
I'm like, I don't really care. Chuck and I set out in 2010 to build a video platform where you could stream, and we could have other radio stations stream to our platform. I put, I don't even want to say how much money into it. And I realized that it would probably take a couple $100 million to do it right. Well, who has that? Facebook finally did it right. And it doesn't really matter. We'll point the stream one way or another. Even if it means streaming it ourselves, because I think the technology is better, we would be able to do that now. But
look at the information, though. I mean, I remember approaching the internet back in the late 90s and saying, what we just assume, and we talked about this way back then, is that we just assumed that somebody was looking at what you were doing. Do you know what I mean? And we talked about back before we talked about the NSA spying, before Edward Snowden told us about that, there were things they called it the Echelon Project, and we knew that, for instance, they had the government was duplicating data all the fiber that was coming into this country from other countries was basically that information was being duplicated, and the government could sift through it and things like that. So, I always approach the internet from the beginning saying either the government's looking at your information, or the people who, the company is looking at your information. The government's looking at it to see if anything wrong, and the people are looking at it to see if they can make any money off of you. You know what I mean? And so I think everyone by now hopefully approaches the internet, approaches Facebook to say, and the joke I saw earlier on Facebook that made a lot of sense was, you've traded your privacy to find out what your old high school friends had for dinner on Facebook. Do you know what I mean? And that's the whole thing, is that you just assume that when you put out this information about yourself, somebody's going to see it, somebody's going to, use it in a certain way. And we just have to accept that's what's happening, and you have to be more cognizant of it. There's no way around that. A lot of my friends that are into privacy talk about VPNs and secure browsers and, all these ways around it. And you just have to, assume that information is going to get out, and just have to be aware, just like in the real world, be aware of your surroundings and be aware of what you're putting out there.
I disagree to some extent. I think that, and I was always astounded, me and Chuck wears the tinfoil hat, but I've always kind of agreed with him on the privacy issue. And that is that I think that at some point there will be a backlash, and we will regulate Facebook and Twitter and all these things so that they can't collect our data. Now and right. That is what, and I've blogged about it. Chuck's read my blogs and so forth, and I've been doing this for months, saying this is ridiculous that there's no rules on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, and then radio and television are just completely regulated. I mean, they tell us I have to put an ID at the top of the hour. Right. I have to write down every little, somebody buys a show, if I'm off by one of the recordings, so we don't say it's paid or whatever. I mean, we can be held accountable for these minor violations for big problems. And there's no rules on the other side. And I'm like, this is a problem for us competitively on the radio and the television side, but it's also a problem for society, and that can be manipulated. And lo and behold, it comes out that
you deal with FCC radio regulations. You and I are probably two of the few people in the region that have had to deal with FCC regulations. You deal with radio, I deal with television, and even television's much worse, closed captioning and CALM Act and things like that. So you see what a hassle regulations are. In my sense, how about instead of regulating them and putting them in, handcuffing them the way you're handcuffed, what if we loosen your regulations?
Thank you. That's my point.
But why do you want to handcuff other people? You're handcuffed. So I said, well, I'm handcuffed. We should handcuff the others too. What problems are you seeing that you're solving? That's what I'm asking you. Regulating Facebook, regulating the internet, other than the Jackie Sutton case, which really is just basically somebody insulting somebody on Facebook, which happens a billion times a day. What are we needing to fix?
Here's what I think needs to be fixed. I think that it needs to be a standard policing. However you police radio and TV, that's fine. Just police Facebook and Twitter in the same way. That's all you got to do. And if you ask me, I think that like FCC regulation should be, you should not allow our station to bleed into 12:30 a.m. in Fort Wayne, okay? And they should make sure that we don't do that. We're not in violence. Remember, we had to go through that refrequencing it.
No, sure.
And I'm like, hey man, I want to be totally straight here. So they did a test, and we had the frequency was not listed correctly. And I go, hey man, let's just apply for it. I know it's going to be expensive, but get it done and get the frequency right and all of that. But should the FCC be telling me what my content should be?
So what you're saying, though, are you saying that you're not allowed to curse on the radio? Should people not be allowed to curse on the internet?
Well,
you have to identify yourself. Should people on dating sites be required to say, here, a woman on a dating site, should she be required to give her name out so I can just find where she lives?
My point is that smart money and the Russians go where there's less regulations. That's my whole,
okay.
It kind of sums it up. And that until there is an evening out of regulation, that radio will continue to suffer on the national basis. On the local basis, a weird thing is happening in that local stations like us have found a resurgence. And if you read the radio blogs, what they say is that people are looking for things that they can trust. And there's very few things, even more than like regional newspaper chains, they feel like they can trust their local radio stations. So like where iHeartMedia and Cumulus Media just filed for bankruptcy all the way across the country, the independents are starting to rise, and they're getting, record advertising, and that's what's happening here.
But in the same vein, you have there's a lot of people that think that Alex Jones is complete fake news, but he's on in hundreds, if not thousands, of radio stations in the country. You know what I mean? He's allowed to make his opinion on radio, even though most people consider it all fake news.
Do you know what kind of he still has to abide by all of the things that we're talking about. I don't want to completely regulate Facebook like they're talking about, and now the legislators are going to come in and they're going to just haphazardly do it, or they're going to go in full force and they're just going to change the internet. But at some point, there has to be an evening out of it. And that's all I'm looking for.
Right. And there's also that aspect of, the internet is a global thing. And for the United States, I mean, I have a friend, for instance, actually a friend of Early's, that goes to China quite often. And he talks about the hassles of even checking his email in China. Do you know what I mean? And there's places, and, I went to Cuba, and there were certain places I couldn't go. The entire country is behind a firewall. I mean, is that what we want? Is that what we need as a country, to have all of your data filtered? You want the government to decide what you can see and what you can't?
We get people watching us and listening to us online all over the world.
Right.
We have a regular listener and watcher in Greece. I don't know who that is.
We all know
but
who that
anyways,
is.
it's officially here's the front page story of USA Today. Facebook falls on the ropes, dazed by intense backlash. It's officially open season on Facebook. Angry users and money-losing investors, U.S. and European regulators, state attorneys general, and lawmakers, they all say the social media giant needs to be held accountable for the misuse of public or for personal information of as many as 50 million Facebook users. That was, of course, by Cambridge Analytica, which said it helped Donald Trump get elected.
Well, and here's what's interesting, though. We talk about Cambridge Analytica. I sat through a discussion with a Obama, and I think she was a statistician. She basically worked on his campaign, and she talked about, and this was a year or two ago, she talked about the amount of data that they were able to, I mean, literally down to the person. They were able to pull an amazing amount of data, and I believe she mentioned using Facebook and using other social media. They were able to do some amazing amount of mining, that things that I had never even heard of. And now we're finding out that not only did Cambridge Analytica work with Trump, that Facebook worked with, basically the Obama campaign, and certain people were able to manipulate Facebook to get information, and Facebook basically turned a blind eye to it, is what we're hearing now. So it happens on both sides.
It must be Christmas time.
Why do you say that?
Because Walt has called me.
Well, I'm basically calling Chuck because he's a fact-oriented guy, unlike some people I know.
You know what it feels like? It feels like when you go to hug someone and then they just walk away from you. Walt, what's going on,
Good morning,
man?
Walt. Long time no
talk.
talk.
To Chuck.
Yeah, well, first, I was going to talk about the gun issue, but I just wanted to, listening to your comments about Facebook and so forth. I'm not on Facebook, but during the presidential campaign, I mean, I got a steady stream of newsletter kind of things on the conservative side, and I'd read it for a while, and it started getting boring, and I'd send, delete me. Bam, here comes the one. So whether you're on Facebook or the internet, I mean, there are people out there watching you. Anybody who's surprised by that is really stupid. Anybody believes that they've got privacy, it's stupid. You got to be kidding.
Right.
But in any case,
Hey, Walt, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What is
Right.
in your mind, what is the ultimate happening of everything about you being aggregated by Google, by Facebook, by unseen forces? What ultimately is the danger?
Well, I think the big problem is the reaction, because right now, because the Democrats, liberal Democrats, and they dominate all this electronic stuff, because they're enraged that Hillary lost the presidential election, and one of the, besides blaming the Russians and the irredeemables, another part was the internet system and Facebook and all the rest of that. So they're angling to so they don't make a loss like that again. And so they're attacking the Russians, they're attacking the irredeemables, and of course they're now they're orienting toward censorship of the Facebook and all the rest of it. It's all tied. It's all politics, pure and simple. Just like anything that goes on in Lake County.
Talk about
Not
Talk about Lake County, man. What do you think, man? What's going on in the sheriff's race? I'm just curious of your take on it.
Well, I think if I were a Democrat, I would probably support the incumbent guy sitting there. I think he's always struck me as a guy, as a man who took law enforcement seriously. He took a lot of lumps from a lot of people. It takes a lot of gumption to, and he was basically being whacked because he wanted things to be run right. That's my impression. Maybe Chuck has a different opinion.
No, I would completely agree with you. I mean, to me, I don't necessarily, and it's bigger than, it's sort of like saying that one person can change the problem. I always say that, you could bring a good, they always talk about the bad apples. I think you're bringing good apples into a bunch of bad apples, and it basically, by default, that you get sort of, again, and I've said it many times, that you can't be involved in politics in Lake County without getting some mud slung at you, without saying, you just can't come through this process without getting a little dirty. And I don't mean that in a criminal sense. I just mean you can't just show up and say, I'm just, a regular guy running for office. Something's going to happen. Somebody's going to come after you, or you can't go through the process without getting dirty. And it's unfortunate. And there's a lot of people that just say, I don't want to get involved in that. I don't want to, I don't want people digging into my past. I don't want people finding out what my stepson did a couple years ago. And there's people that just, I don't want to get involved in politics because somebody's going to find out something about me, because everybody has a skeleton or two.
Walt, you got a skeleton? Hey, Walt?
I have to think about this.
You know what? I want you to think about it. And I didn't get to talk to you over the holidays. So Merry Christmas. And did you give your wife the card with the $20 in it or no?
Well, of course. I mean, that $20 is to ensure that she stays as humble as Walt.
I was going to say, in typical Lake County fashion, Walt's going to give her the Christmas card at Easter, because that's what we do here.
Thanks a lot, Walt. Hey, it's good to hear from you, even though you called Chuck, not me.
Okay.
Talk to you.
Take
See
care,
you later.
Walt.
Hey, man, life never ceases to amaze. We got time for one more. Ryan's saying, hey, guys, you got to hang on the line. I'm sorry. We are behind Giuseppe's.
Everything Italian. That's what you get at Giuseppe's restaurant in Cherville. Let's hear from Giuseppe himself.
We make our own gelato in-house. We do quite a bit of different flavors. We have like pistachio, chocolate. We do lemon and strawberry sorbet, and it's very, very good. It's smooth texture, very intense flavor. It's healthier, a little healthier, absolutely. Our cannolis, they're phenomenal. They're chocolate dipped. That's not common. My brother-in-law's cousin's wife, she makes the tiramisu and the cannoli, and they're just both very, very good.
Giuseppe's Everything Italian is located at 1000 Eagle Ridge Drive in Cherville, just north of the Showplace Theaters. Dine-in, carry-out, and delivery. 219-322-0011 or visit Giuseppe'sPizza.net.
Giuseppe's is now serving wine.
Elmwood Casket Company in Hammond and Cherville offers over 100 American-made caskets, up to 60% less expensive than area funeral homes, along with a wide selection of burial vaults and cremation urns. Our company is licensed by the state of Indiana and offers interest-free pre-arrangement plans. Call Mike at 219-844-7009 or visit elmwoodcaskets.com for pricing. Remember, you do have options to prevent overpaying at the funeral home. Elmwood Casket Company.
Join Harvard Ridge Church in St. John on Good Friday, March 30th at 7 p.m. for a Tenebrae service. Tenebrae, which means darkness or shadow, is an ancient tradition in which Christians gather to recall the hours of darkness that occurred at the crucifixion of Jesus. Set in candlelight, the candles are gradually extinguished as the biblical story of the cross is retold through scripture and music. Join us at Harvest Ridge Church at 9495 Kyleman Street in St. John for this Good Friday Tenebrae service. Visit harvestridgechurch.com for more information.
Hey, what's going on? 719 in the Calumet region. Thanks for tuning in or watching us on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, or you can also listen on AM 1230 WJLB and 1047. What you can't do today is you can't listen on the TuneIn app, and I've got a number of people texting and emailing in that the TuneIn app is down, and I do apologize for that. And here's the story, that for a long time we have not turned on our Arbitron machine.
Uh-huh.
And then at one point we pulled it out, and I mistook it for just junk, and I tossed it. And now Arbitron is like, hey, you guys might want to think about putting a pulse on your, getting ratings or whatever. And I'm like, well, I don't know. And so we were working on it yesterday to connect to Arbitron. I mean, technically we're supposed to be.
Right.
And so I think what happened is we unplugged the TuneIn app. So
Why
sorry
don't you
about that.
Just call me before you unplug anything from now on, and I'll just
Or
tell you
how
it's a bad
about
idea.
throwing stuff out? I don't throw that much out, but every time I throw something out, somebody comes by looking, hey, man, where's that piece that needs to be here? And, jeez, I don't know. I'm sorry I threw it out. Hey, 294 around the city looks pretty good. 80 going east and west looks good. Bishop Ford, a little bit tight at the merge, but I don't know if I'd spend the money right now. It might just be kind of rain-related. Skyway and the toll road look pretty good. Bishop Ford, Dan Ryan, Skyway, all that, they're looking good. And traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. Don't forget, on Monday, Indianapolis Boulevard is going to be closing down one lane in both directions for 7.5 months on the big bridge in Highland, going into Meyer and into what else is over there on the left? Dick's Sporting Goods, and almost getting into the area there where Alberts is. So we got some big problems coming our way.
I don't want to get sidetracked, but I wanted to mention something that you probably won't believe. Because you were talking about traffic yesterday. I managed to drive all the way from St. John down to Bishop Ford, down to Dan Ryan, all the way to 35th Street without tapping my brakes. That's just to show exactly that look on your face, because I think you have not driven downtown during rush hour in a long time. I don't know when the last time you did it was. That the dynamics of going downtown have changed dramatically. Your eyebrows, your eyes are doing all kinds of things. The number of people that are driving into that central loop location continues to drop. And, you know where I'm going with this, but, we have decentralized, more people are working from home, more people are working out in the suburbs, and it's really changed the dynamic of driving downtown.
I'll give you this. Here in the spring, in the last few weeks, I have noticed considerably less traffic unless there's an accident. And to some extent, I agree with you that there's less people that need to commute to downtown like I did for 18 years and like you're doing now. But at the same time, there's also been better roads built, and there's been, more lanes installed. So I mean, when I was driving I started driving the Dan Ryan, it was 5 lanes across. What is it, 8 now?
Right.
You know what I mean?
But I mean, even the merge, I'll show you, I'll just hand this over to you. This is a picture of the merge yesterday morning.
Really? The merge, I see it.
There's 3 cars on the merge. You know what I mean? Could you imagine that 10 years ago? I mean, every morning on the merge, you sat in traffic for 10 or 20 minutes.
Well, I would leave my house. I had to leave my house by 5:40. Otherwise, I was maybe by 5:30. But if I got up to 5:38 and I'm pulling out of my driveway, by the time I hit the merge at 6 o'clock, you've Katie barred the door. Now I see right now the general pattern is as it starts getting bad around 6:30, 6:45.
Right, 8 o'clock. It took me 50 minutes yesterday at 8 o'clock, peak rush hour.
And I know where he's going with this. So let me get the weather out here, and it's brought to you by our good friends at Carpenter's Local 599. Hey, a high of 55 today. It's still hanging right at 50 degrees, 49, 50 here at the Strachan Van Til Studios. Kind of a rainy, carbuncle day. And then tomorrow, high of 55, mainly cloudy. And then Thursday, a high of 47, cooler with a little rain. We'll talk about where Chuck's going, but right now we got to hit a couple of we've got Mayor who at 7. Oh, we got Mayor McDermott today. I do. That's right. McDermott and I are sitting and we're just going to talk. So let's take these phone calls. Let's go to Mad Mac on line 1. Mad Mac, how are you?
Good. How you doing, man? So I got a little dry voice here, but yeah, Jimmy working on the equipment, sort of like the equivalent of a mechanic saying, yeah, just take the engine out and see if that solves the problem, right?
Sometimes.
Can only imagine.
You know what? Sometimes that could be the case, but as Chuck will attest, we've been doing this for such a long time that...
And you're just catching on, right?
I'm just finally catching on, but believe it or not, when there's a technical problem...
Well, it's like when you called me.
Everyone calls here.
When you
calls
called
me.
You called me yesterday, and I assumed that there was problems with the lights. I said, okay, I need to come and fix it. You go, oh, they're just unplugged. So okay,
Yeah.
problem solved.
So what's up, man, Mac?
Hey, I got a little proposition for you, Jimmy. As I know you do. You got your special Facebook stuff. Let's say where you show basketball games and stuff like that, and you think that's the future. Well, why don't you try this experiment one day? Let's starting tomorrow. Just turn off the radio station and just do Facebook Live and see where that gets you. Like, just turn off the transmitter. No radio for 24 hours. Just do everything on Facebook and see how many complaints you get.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because if the situation stays exactly how it is, where there's no regulation on Facebook and radio is completely regulated, I can foresee a day when some of these radio stations will leave their station on because they have to, but they would just basically have a running tape where they would say, hey, please join us on Facebook or on our website for live streaming video 24 hours a day. And they would just use the radio station to just push everyone to their live streaming video.
I don't think so.
Well, see, and I disagree, though, because, I mean, right now, most people still listen to the radio in the car. And so I'm the kind of person, I listen to the radio when I can, and then when I'm downtown and I can't pick you up, I switch to Facebook kind of thing. And, of course, it's like, why would I use, no offense to you, as much as I love looking at you, why would I use my data while driving to listen to you on Facebook when I can listen to you on, so there's, you're
but
reaching
all you're doing,
audiences.
Chuck, is listening, correct?
Well, and that's and when you're driving, you can't watch Facebook. So
Yeah, but even when you're at work, you're just listening, correct?
It depends. There are times that, there's something going on that you want to see. And that's sort of the key to video, is that you have to give
let's
people
just
a
make
reason.
this simple, because we only have an hour left on the show. The vast majority, 80% of the time, you're just listening.
You are correct. You are correct.
Thank you. There we go.
So
Now
what are you
let's move on to
what are you trying to prove there?
Facebook is a medium to deliver an audio signal.
But what Facebook
That's
can give
it.
you, though,
Because if you didn't need it, you could simply turn off the radio station, but you can't.
But
because
here's the thing, though.
Your source of income is from an audio feed at 12:30 a.m.
I got you. Hold
I
on
don't
a
want-
second.
I don't
I
want
want,
to debate
I want
the whole
both of you guys to understand. I just have an issue with the fact that we are so extremely regulated, and Facebook is not regulated at all. And I'm telling you, right now, is man, yeah. I mean, over time, if it stays the way it is with this unequal regulation, more and more money and communication will go in to the place that's not regulated at all, while the other one's
why
overly
would you
regulated.
why would you want more regulation on the internet? Why would you then, as a capitalist, why would you have possibly voted for a group of Democratic nitwits under the name Hillary who want to regulate the type of toilet paper you wipe your keister with, as opposed to voting for a guy who said, look, we don't need all these regulations. If I make up one law, I'm getting rid of four.
Okay, good enough. I mean, that
turns
sounds.
out that guy got in there and put in one law and got rid of over.
Okay, I got you. Okay, I got it in theory, and that's a good talking point.
In theory,
but I don't have personally. I don't have any feeling that any regulation has been lifted on me.
No, there hasn't been. There's been.
There hasn't
Sure they
been.
did.
There's
You
more.
You just told us 4 months ago about not having to do something in Michigan City. Now you can do a little radio thing wherever you want. Isn't that correct?
They've gotten rid of minor regulation that has not changed anything, and there has
Okay, so
actually
you need to
been
revise your last statement.
there has been
right?
an equal amount of other things that we now have to deal with about how you report your public file and so forth. So if you ask me, it about evens out. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, but it's
so
just a lot better
the
than
point is I'm not asking for Facebook to get more regulation or radio to get. I mean, I just want it to be even. I want it to be even. That's it. I want it to be an even field, and it's so far from being remotely close to being an even playing field that it's not even. People don't even want to discuss it. They can't even comprehend it because radio and television regulation is so far across the street, and Facebook is over here in Harrison Park, and they don't have any regulation. And so no one could even comprehend it. I went and told this to Visklosky 2 years ago in a meeting, and he just kind of looked at me.
He's not listening to you, dude.
All right. We gotta move on. All right, last phone call, and that is, who is that? You know what? I think we're done. We'll pick him up later.
Poor
Chuck,
man.
thanks for coming in, man.
Certainly. I enjoy our time.
It's always interesting. We didn't get to talk about a couple things that you wanted to hit, but
Yeah,
we'll get it next time.
We'll come back.
Thanks for being Verley. Hey,
take
Hammond Maritime McDermott's just going to sit with me, and we're just going to chat. You guys ready for that?
Eduardo's Natural Pizza in Munster has built a reputation for serving the finest Chicago-style stuffed pizza, loaded with fresh and natural ingredients. Not interested in stuffed pizza? Eduardo's has the best thin crust pizza, appetizers, salads, pastas, and more. Pick up a half-baked pizza from Eduardo's to take home and bake at your convenience. It's the perfect solution for those hectic nights. Eduardo's is located at 7920 Calumet Avenue in Munster. Dine in or carry out by calling 836-2010.
Ironworkers Local 395, through their contractor employers, the Northwest Indiana Contractors Association, are the workers you see building Northwest Indiana. They are the craftsmen building your schools, hospitals, malls, steel mills, and manufacturing plants. They support local charities, including Tradewinds and Chasing Dreams, and they coach your kids after work and on the weekend. They live, work, and contribute to all of our local communities' economic growth. To find out more about these organizations, visit ironworkers395.com or nwicontractors.org.
From the Strachan Van Til Studios, your local Strachan Van Til has some great products on sale this week. Here's a few items you might want to add to your shopping list. California Cuties, 5-pound box, $4.99 each. Purdue split chicken breasts or thighs, 88 cents a pound. 12-ounce 12-pack Coca-Cola, Sprite, Mountain Dew, Lipton Brisk, 7-Up, RC Cola, and Canada Dry, $2.99 each. When you buy 3, limit 2 offers. Strachan Van Til, proud to be Indiana-made and dedicated to being Indiana's grocery store.
Hey, that's right. It's the last day of last week's sales, and the new ones start on Wednesday or tomorrow. So get over to Strachan Van Til's. And Alexis and I went over there, and every time we're walking in, she's like, hey, man, we're not going around here and buying $300 worth of groceries. And then we got all the way to the end. She just couldn't stop. I'm like, you're the one. $308 on Sunday, baby. Not a record, but kind of up there for, just having 3 people in the house. Hey, cloudy with a bit of rain and a high of 55 tomorrow. Same thing, around a high of 55, cloudy tomorrow. And then Thursday, high of 47, cooler with a little rain. And weather brought to you by our good friends at Labor's Local 41, of which I'm a proud alum. Traffic, as Chuck said, it's been kind of light. 294, a little bit heavy through the 95th area, but moving. 80 going east and west. Looks good to Bishop Ford. Tight 115th on up to 95th. Skyway, Toll Road, Borman, I-65 are doing well north of 30. But if you're south of 30, there's an accident on the left lane on the northbound, and that is slowing things down at Route 2. If you're going southbound, you should be okay. But northbound, people that come out of Demote and Rensselaer to work up here, you guys are in trouble as you've got some slowness on I-65 northbound. Hey, every once in a while, the mayor of our city of license stops by, and he and I just need to have a conversation because the mayor comes on most Fridays here, and he pays for that time. And then every once in a while, he's just got to come on with me when he's not paying for it.
Keep it real.
Keep it real. But, I do have to give you kudos in one respect. There's not a lot of difference. I mean, you take most comers and you just take most of the topics. So I think that there's isn't a driving need to have you on here so that I can ask you stuff that you wouldn't talk about on Friday.
True, I talk about anything.
Yeah,
on Friday.
so I mean, it's just more to just kind of see what's going on and check in and do that kind of
Well,
stuff.
sometimes I think the audience thinks that. I still think the audience thinks that we don't take calls and we only talk about certain things on the Friday show. So to come on here with you proves that we have open lines right now and we're willing to take phone calls. So
let's talk.
You're more the hard-hitting reporter, Kevin and I. Kevin and I are buddies. So
you want to know something? I get off in 26 minutes. So let me conjure some of that.
You don't have to. You don't have to. You can be nice. It's fine.
Here's how I look at what we do here is that there's so many different ways it comes in on text. We get emails, we get Facebook comments, we get Twittered, I get phone calls, and then all of that kind of drives where we want to go. Sometimes people don't want us to talk about, major issues around here, and then sometimes it's just like, hey, man, we need to talk about this. So I just kind of let them take the cue.
I agree.
But there are a couple things going on here locally.
Where's Verly today, man?
She is somewhere.
She flying around someplace?
She is. I know where she is, but I don't think she necessarily wants that out on the radio.
No, I didn't.
So yeah, she couldn't make it, and believe me, she likes to be here on Tuesdays.
I know that.
And
when Ryan was like, "Hey, you gonna come in on 7:30 on Tuesday?" I said, "Verly's gonna get mad, man."
She likes to be on the radio on a regular basis, so she can rip on you.
I am a topic of conversation with her. I noticed that.
She's
you know what's funny? Verly
consistent.
And I, we have hardly know each other. Literally, hardly know each other. In fact, during Ann Herbert's run against Councilman Anthony Higgs, that's the first time we really talked to each other. And I know her husband way better than I know her. And that's probably where a lot of the hostility stems from, because I sued NIPSCO a couple times since I've been mayor. And I have a feeling that's where Verly's negative attitude towards me comes from. Because I sued NIPSCO, and that's
that's not bringing you any. It's not like. What is that one book? Win friends and
influence people.
Yeah, something like There's a long. That's not right up the alley of that. But I think with Verly, she's very consistent in her analysis of you, and she evidently just doesn't like you. I don't know why.
Oh, there's no doubt she doesn't like me. But she has no basis for it. She doesn't even know me. And the funny thing is, when Marissa ran, Verly supported her, but Marissa's my wife.
She can't see enough good things about your wife.
Right.
And enough negative things about you. So,
yeah,
hey,
whatever.
listen, remember Marcia Hani?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Marcia
was
was
free time.
Free time.
Yeah.
Yes, she was free time. Marcia Hani was a former Times reporter. Then I believe she worked for the city, but she called my show all the time. And it was every time she called was to rip on you in one way or another.
Her and I mean for sure.
And there's others,
right.
but Marcia, one time we stopped and it was kind of at an emotional time, and I'm like, Marcia, I just got to say, you've been around this city for all your life. Can you say one positive thing about Hammond Mayor Tom McDermott? And it was dead silence. And I'm like, all right. I mean, not that he put a stop sign in the right spot or anything. And she's like, no, I can't think of anything. And I'm like, that's a little bit of a lack of credibility when you can't analyze and say, well, at least this guy's done this or that. Verly will do that once in a while. I got to give it to the mayor for doing this. But then she'll go, but. And then
I don't think I've ever heard that.
Well, maybe that was off the air.
Yeah, probably off the air. Probably. What's funny is I do a show at LTH every couple weeks. I do with Jeffrey Smith, and I know that he goes over there. He's like, "Why does Verly hate you so much?" Jeffrey, I know you know Jeffrey, don't you?
Yeah, I know who he is. Yeah, I've talked to him on the phone.
Because he and I are real good friends, and I go over there, and he's like, "God, I have no idea why she hates you so much." I'm like, I barely even know her. Seriously, I probably only talked to her cumulatively like 15 minutes in my life, mostly in here. Actually, hey Verly, hey Tom, hey Mayor. That's the extent of it.
Let's just talk about that. I mean, since we're just here, and if you guys want to talk, 219-845-1100. When I first came here in 2004, and my wife and I bought WJOB, you came on as the mayor. I mean, I think for 2 years we basically didn't talk.
True.
And it was. Not,
it was a weird time for both of us.
It was we're both coming into the leagues on this, and it was a situation that I felt as if you didn't like when I would say negative things about you, and then
I didn't.
Yeah, you didn't like it,
but I'm a lot different now.
But now, I'll even say things about the mayor, and I'll say, I can't believe he's doing this, or this is stupid. And I don't think I imagine it doesn't like roll off your back that you still don't like it, but you accept that that's my role is to analyze what you do.
And plus, I realize that you also are owner of a radio station and you get paid to stir the pot, so to speak. I mean, and you're good at it, by the way. I mean, that's your job, is to take news stories and get people interested in it so that they buy more advertising and they listen to your station. And I get that, you know, and I also get it when I got a phone call from a reporter yesterday, Bill Dolan, and he left a message for me saying, I need to talk to you. And it's a bad story. Okay. And I called him back and he goes, I can't believe you called me back. I'm like, I always call you back. This is my job. So like, my job is to get criticized also. My job is to appear on your show, even though you and I don't, you know, may not like each other. And I'm not saying that, you and I have come a long way in the last 15 years. We started off pretty rough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty rough.
Yeah.
And then we put rough patches
for sure
through these years.
But we put our show together initially when you and I did the show. That was the whole shtick. It was like everybody knew you and I fought with each other. So like if we're both sitting across from each other, it was going to be interesting radio, right?
Yes, that was originally, but then it really didn't really ever evolve like that because the callers ripped on you so much that I didn't have to. I guess where I'm pointing at is I think what happens now is that somebody comes into like the political world or even as some that are like quasi agencies, and then I might say something about them on the radio. And then they just hold it, and they don't want to talk to me, and they don't. They don't recognize there's a role there,
I agree
and that I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to be any other politician's friend. I just want to be able to talk and speak openly about it. And then it just makes me think that some of the ones that come up and get pestered by that, and it's both Democrats and Republicans, believe me.
I'm sure.
And they just haven't matured as an elected leader yet, because that's going to happen. Bill Dolan is going to have a great conversation with you, and you're going to think he's your buddy, and then 3 weeks later he is going to write the most blistering article about you, and you'll be like, "Hey, Bill, I thought I was your friend," and he's like, "What are you talking about? I'm just doing my job."
That's exactly it, Jim. I agree with you totally. In fact, that's the thing I've gotten better at is my first term, there's a lot of people that didn't think I was going to be around for a second term. A lot of people.
Well, as a matter of fact, you almost weren't.
I almost wasn't, actually. But, like, seriously, my first term was pretty rough as far as, I mean, by the way, I was only 34. So I come in, I was intelligent, I was cocky, and I came in and I thought I had it all, and quite frankly, I learned a lot, and I think I've gotten better. It's funny when I hear people talk about term limits, I think about my experience as mayor is I really got good in my second term and my third term, and I think at this point I'm almost like a town manager, really. I get elected every 4 years by the residents, but I look at myself like a town manager. I'm sort of a pro at Hammond. I understand the city, I know the people, I know the officials, I know our issues. So, like, running for re-election, which I imagine I'm going to be running for re-election, and I haven't talked about that publicly, but running for re-election, I think that's really where it's coming from is, I think I'm the best guy for the job at this point. I can't imagine anybody better. So
you're bearing a resemblance to a guy like Tom DiGiulio.
I like Tom DiGiulio.
How he ran Munster all those years.
True.
I don't even think people realize that he's out in Dyer now.
Yeah.
And and Dyer's like real quiet about it. It's like, hey man, we got to steal from Munster. DiGiulio has all this.
He's a great guy,
consultant.
Oh, another one I really look up to in a lot of respects. He's the clerk treasurer of Highland, Michael Griffin. He's outstanding.
Yeah, kind of quiet under the radar.
He's been there longer than I've been here, and he's going to probably be there, for another term for sure. I mean, Michael is a pro, and the residents of Highland keep reelecting him because he's a pro and he knows what he's doing. And it's not about politics. It's about running the city, running the town of Highland. So, so anyway, a lot of people say you're going to be the next pastor. And and I respected the mayor, and I knew the mayor my whole life, basically, since my dad was friends with him. But it's not about that. It's, it's about running the city of Hammond, having a good team. And I'm lucky enough to have a great team. So
speaking of machine stuff, let's just review a couple of things. You and I haven't really sat down since John Buntich went away for 15 years, 8 months.
Really?
Since he actually left. It's been a long time. And I just wonder, going into this sheriff's race, it's already kind of gotten ugly.
Yeah.
Do you foresee it getting uglier? We don't need to talk about Buntich himself.
No,
That's
I agree.
a big one. But coming up to the sheriff's race, it seems like there's a lot of sniping going on.
It's typical, though, Jim. Think about when Marissa was running countywide races are ugly, especially contested countywide races. And, it's going to be, this is the top spot. The county sheriff's race is where it's at right now. And, they're going to fight for it. And you know, obviously I'm supporting Oscar Martinez for sheriff. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's doing great. And, you know, obviously there's plenty of qualified candidates in this race, tons of them. And they're taking swings at Oscar. I mean, it's not the candidates. You don't see Dowling going after Mitch Dominguez. You don't see Mitch Dominguez going after Mike Brown. You don't see Mike Brown going after, you know, Colonel Ligon. They're not fighting with each other. Everybody's taking swings mostly at Oscar because he's the guy to beat. And he is the guy to beat.
So let's see. So the Martinez family has a big business in Hammond.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't know this, they got the tortilla company.
They moved to Hammond from East Chicago.
Yep, and it's a big one, and it's one of the most, I guess, efficient production facilities you guys would ever see. And so the parents and the two brothers have that business. Does that influence your support for Oscar Martinez?
A little bit, but you know the thing about Oscar that I really appreciate? First off, his family's great. They're great people, all of them, okay? His wife is beautiful. Their family's beautiful. His brothers, his mom and dad, they campaign with him every time he campaigns, which is unusual. And quite frankly, I've seen Oscar over the last 10 years lose 3 times. And like I introduced him at a speech a couple weeks ago, and I said, there's a lot of people after the first loss. People lose in politics a lot. And a lot of times when you lose the first time, you're like, man, I gave it everything I got, and I lost, and I'm done. I'm walking away. I can't do this. It's not, you know, a lot of people form their opinions on why they lost, but they're done after that. Oscar lost 3 times and kept on plugging, and here he is. You know, he becomes, you know, and I said when he got caucused in, I was bawling. It was really one of the coolest things I've seen. Outside of Marissa's race, I think that was probably my favorite time in politics, is watching Oscar Martinez get sworn in and just watching his brothers balling and his wife balling and his mom and dad balling. It was just really neat to see because it was just like a lot of work to get to that point.
You brought up your wife.
Mm-hmm.
So you're the mayor of Hammond, and she is the civil judge out in Lake County. It's a big position, elected position. I guess I'm just curious now. You know, I guess McDermott and I have similar paths here, and that my wife is also on the bench.
I appeared before your judge, or before your wife.
I did not, you know, until you told me that. I didn't know that because there's so much secrecy around juvenile issues.
Right.
But I'm surprised that you don't use that to not go to more functions. In other words, now my wife, you know, we look at him and she's like, oh, I can't really go there. I can't go to this. You know, I can't raise money, this and that. And you don't use that as much.
No, I have to be there, Jim.
My card is now people are like, hey, you know, I can't go. The wife, you know, she can't be there. And
that's awesome.
Whether it's true or not,
no one's ever going to see Jim again.
Yeah, literally, we've just kind of been able to shut down everything, and it's kind of it's about time to get a little break from the many occasions.
Right.
But your wife is the judge, and you're the mayor. How does that work?
We don't talk about business. We don't talk about politics. When we go home, she's not the judge and I'm not the mayor. It's always been like that with me. But like with her, you know, we keep each other grounded very well. I don't talk to her like she's a judge. She doesn't talk to me like I'm a mayor. We don't act like it around each other. We don't act like it, quite frankly, in public, of course, you got to be appropriate. But like we're out with our friends and stuff like that. It's not like that at all. It's Marissa and Tom. I mean, and that's the best way to handle it is, but she does have a lot more restrictions on her than I have on me, as you know, with Alexis being in the position she's in. The judicial, you know, mandates are extreme. You have to really, Marissa has to conduct herself appropriately at all times. Whereas as mayor, I could act like I could act like any way I want. The voters are my boss, but Marissa has bosses. So besides the voters, she has bosses down in Indianapolis that watch everything she does, every opinion she makes. And quite frankly, with Marissa having a politically active husband like she has, I think it makes it even tougher on her because I'm in the wrong party in Indiana too. So a lot of these people are Republicans that scrutinize Marissa, and I'm an outspoken Democrat. And I think it makes life a little bit more difficult for her, for sure.
219-845-1100. Let's take some phone calls. Hammond Mayor Tom McDermott stopping by. What time is that Edison show at? At 8:05? 9:05. Yeah, I think they're not going to have the Edison Crime Watch today. For those of you that are looking for that a little bit later, let's take some phone calls, and let's go to 599 phone line. Hey, Brian, what's going on?
Hey, Brian.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Jed. Good morning, Mayor.
How you doing?
All right. Listen, I just have 2 questions. If you can answer for me, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
First of all, do you see any in the foreseeable future that the Hammond bus system will be coming back?
Okay, and what's the second one?
Second one is I was wondering if Hammond, big as it is, and with the resources that they have, is there any chance of Hammond getting a multiplex movie theater?
Good questions. Okay.
All right, stay on the line for the bus question. Take the bus one first, Mayor.
Probably not the Hammond bus system. If there is going to be a bus system, it's going to have to be a regional bus system, and quite frankly, that's bigger than just the city of Hammond. So, I'm not a supporter of the way we did it at all. It wasn't working, and I realize that there's people that are affected by that, and thank goodness that a person like Frank Mervan stepped up and has done a township bus service. But I think any bus service needs to be regional, needs to be in the county, not just in East Chicago, or not just in Hammond, not just in Gary. I don't think that's fair. And GPTC has also stepped up, and I acknowledge that. And Hammond participated financially this year, I think to the tune of $50,000 to help them. But when I gave them the $50,000, I was very clear saying this is not a permanent solution. This is a one-time gig, and I challenged elected officials from NERC and across the region to come up with a regional plan, because that's the answer. You know, we're doing a regional train right now and spending $600 million on it, and we don't have a penny earmarked for a regional bus system, which is just as badly needed as a train. So,
what do you think there? What do you say to that, Brian?
I think that the saying, I used to hear the saying when I was a teenager that if you were coming out of Chicago into Indiana to set your watch back about 20 years, well, with us being so close to Chicago, downtown Chicago even, it's ridiculous that Northwest Indiana doesn't have a regional transportation system.
We agree on that, Brian. We do agree on that. Believe me. We definitely agree on that. I think it's ridiculous.
All right, Brian, thanks. We're going to address the other one.
The movie theater is a private. We'd love to have a movie theater, believe me, but that's not.
Less people are going to movies.
True story.
Yeah, it'd be hard to build one now, man.
True story.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, a lot of people bring things like this up to me. They're like, Mayor, you should build a Portillo's here. It's like, yeah, but City of Hammond can't build a Portillo's. It'd be the City of Hammond Portillo's restaurant. It doesn't work like that. It has to be private money coming in, and that's what we're waiting for. But I'd be open to it for sure.
We're going to take MX and Crown Point Joe, and then that'll be it, okay? Because there's a couple things I want to hit with the mayor here on 599. MX, you're it. What's up?
What's up, MX?
No, it's Dave. Good morning, Mayor. Good morning,
How you doing, sir?
Jed. No, it's Dave Dennison. But we can't
Who's Dave
use
Dennison?
Hold on a second.
Oh,
I can't hear that
yeah.
name without almost laughing
Double
out
D.
loud. But all right,
Okay.
go ahead.
We can't use nicknames because Oscar don't like it. But I want to talk about something positive.
Sure.
Very, very positive.
Sure.
Jed, I can't call him Fishbelly anymore because I'll get a 6th-level felony. Jed says you're a lot like Trump. I want to talk about the teamwork.
There's definitely similarities.
Yeah, that you and Trump did together. First of all, I made the big bad Don Mimi. Thanks to Trump for lowering the corporate tax, these Hammond high-tech jobs stayed in the U.S.
That's not true, though. But, I mean, you're free to make any cartoon you want, but that's not true. These gentlemen are from
Did you see that one?
Yeah, I saw that. I keep up with you, man.
Well, anyway.
I know what's going on, MX. I'm the mayor, man. I got to know everything in Hammond.
But anyways, I believe that happened, and you capitalized. I believe Trump caused this to happen, and you capitalized on it.
All right.
Okay,
cool.
MX, you gave me something to work with.
I can't change
there.
your beliefs, so I can't change MX's beliefs.
Crown Point Joe, you're it. Go.
What's up, fellas? Make me follow MX. That's great.
Hey, Joe.
So, it's a two-part question, and I want to know if the mayor has the courage to address this.
I love that. I love that.
First, when's the Wham ride?
It's a week later than normal. It's early August, so I do have the courage to address that. So I moved it back a week, Joe. I moved it back a week this year so I could attend a family reunion, and I need to be at Wham, so they accommodated my schedule this year so that I could go to my family reunion and do Wham also. So it's a week later than normal, but it's still early August.
Hey, just so everybody understands what Wham is, it's a 30-mile ride that starts at midnight and runs through Hammond, Whiting, Munster, Highland, and all that. And what's the second one, Joe?
That's maybe one of the best events of the year, right? That Wham
Thank
ride.
you. I love it. I love Wham.
What about cyclocross? Let's talk about cyclocross, and Jed might have to explain that to the 4 listeners as well. But if you could speculate, and nobody's listening, 3 or 4 people, if you could guess where in Hammond, I drive through here every day, I think, where in Hammond could the mayor, an avid bicyclist, right? Not only off-road, I know some people sport, that bumped into you off-road, you ride a lot. Where would you put it?
I tell you what, the best location for a mountain bike course basically is what you're talking about, where BMXers could do it also. The best location, I've already tried to put it there, I had to work with the county, would be Gibson Woods. You know, Gibson Woods probably has, in the heat of summer, probably has 10 people a day use it. It's completely ridiculously underused, and it's probably 200 or 300 acres of woodland. And I was like, if you had mountain bikers out here, not motor, you know, MX is probably revving up his motorcycle, not motorcycles. It'd be for mountain bikers and cyclists and hikers. They could increase Gibson Woods usage tremendously, and there's no desire whatsoever to do that on the part of the county. That would definitely be the best location for it in Hammond, and it's unfortunate. I've run up against this brick wall a few times already.
Imagination,
Mayor,
Imagination Glen, baby.
Imagination Glen's great.
That's a great place. Great place to drive. What I'm talking about is a one-day event. They did it in the Lake County Fairgrounds late in the season, and they had that one cyclocross race. And I think that Hammond, I mean,
show me what you're talking about, Joe. Could you get some information?
Just basically make an obstacle course out of a piece of land.
Yeah,
and then they take it back.
Wow,
they have it on like I think at X Games and some of these.
How big
places.
of a loop is it? Is it like a mile or?
I think at the Lake County Fairgrounds it was a mile. You know,
wow.
And they ran it up through some of the trees and some of the covered shelters there, and what a great event that was. And it's just a one-day thing. And
that'd be fun.
Sponsorship. It would. I think you would have personally. I think you would have a blast, and it would be a great thing for.
I'd do well in the old guy category.
Well, I'll be out there with you.
All right, Joe, thanks for your call.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it.
All
right, he brought up something here. MX did. Your style.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, when you first came onto the scene, I couldn't believe that you would say some of what I think you don't say is, quite frankly, as many ridiculous things as you did early on, because I don't know but I think it's a little bit more refined, but not that much more refined, and you'll just basically say whatever is on your mind. I think Trump is more of a tweet or whatever on his mind, but he'll also say it in person, but most of it's been tweeting of the last couple of years. How does it feel to be compared to his style?
I've heard it many times, actually. In fact, I think you've told me this.
I've talked about it from the very beginning when Trump just started coming.
Before he was even president.
I already seen this.
Right. No, the thing is, I mean, Trump is obviously effective. He became president of the United States doing that style. So, and I've been effective at the local level doing the same style. And what I think the voters want to see is authentic people. They don't want to see the canned, perfect people that we used to vote for all the time. They want to see people more like Donald Trump, people more like Tom McDermott that are real, and they're going to tell you honestly what's going on. Like the gentleman that called earlier about buses, I actually told him that the truth, how I feel, is I don't think the Hammond transit system was working. It wasn't getting a lot of riders, and we were spending over $1 million a year on it, and that's valuable money. The answer is not to have buses doing little loops here in Hammond. The answer is to have a regional system. And that's not a popular thing to say. It's hard to say that to somebody because he wants me to say, yeah, I support that, but I don't. And I tell him the truth. And I think he may not appreciate it, hearing that answer from me, but there's a lot of people out there listening that are like, wow, I can't believe that this politician just said that, So I think that's what, for the new elected officials that are coming up, authentic people are what the voters are looking for, in my opinion.
Nobody brought this up, and I'm a little surprised. I'm just going to throw out a name, and I want you to just tell me what you're thinking. Anthony Higgs.
Anthony and I, we started off close, campaigned together my first election, and I made McKinley Nuttall a redevelopment commission member, and Anthony has been against me ever since for 15 years. So, I'm not his best friend. He's not my best friend. As a person, I like him. He's a nice person. But like as coworkers, like a council member, mayor, we have a horrible relationship. And quite frankly, he's been against me every election I've run. I've been against him every election he's run in, and I don't see things changing. I really don't.
The recent dust up with the Anthony having some sort of medical emergency at his home, and then going to the fire station and allegedly saying that he thought that some of the fire guys may have taken $200 from his place, and then allegedly saying that, remember, basically that I control the budget for you guys, which was taken by some of the fire guys, according to Jeff Smith, as meaning somewhat of a threat. What is it? Does that story have any legs?
Yeah, it does, because everybody loves firemen. But I think the far more disturbing story was the one that came out a few days later, talking about Anthony Higgs filing precinct committee members and getting documents on county time while he was doing it. Now, the story about the firemen is a nasty story that people read. It was like, it's like eating potato chips. Everybody wants to read it because it's a interesting story. But the story about him on county time, doing allegedly what he was allegedly doing, I think that's the kind of thing the U.S. attorney reads. And I think that's the kind of thing the FBI is interested in. And I would not be comfortable if I was Councilman Anthony Higgs right now. After that article appeared, I would be very, very nervous, because that's the kind of thing. Look at George Van Til. It's no different than what George Van Til was caught doing by the FBI. Anthony Higgs on county time doing what he allegedly was doing, that's the kind of thing that gets you indicted. So, like, you don't get indicted for threatening firemen and saying to the fireman, you stole my $200 and I approve your budget. That's not going to get you in trouble. That's going to get you on the front page. That's going to get people on WJOB talking. But the article about what he was doing on county time, allegedly, that's the kind of thing that gets you indicted. And that would make me nervous. I wouldn't be able to sleep if I was him.
Speaking of nervousness, we were just talking, Chuck and I were, about the people running for office around here. There's obviously, we saw from there was a lot of things that came out of the Bunchage trial, but one of them was that the feds will go to some really great lengths right now to analyze everything, but a lot of it has to do somehow centered around election laws and so forth. And Chuck brought up a good point. He's like, if you're thinking of running for office and there's just so many election laws and so many ways that you can get in trouble with the campaign. I mean, do you think that he's right, that it's just that the amount of things to be concerned with are pushing away good people?
Good question. Well, there are tons of ways you can trip yourself up. Okay. And I think that there's a lot of reasons why people wouldn't. Running for office is a big decision. Obviously, I've made that decision. I'm in. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's that or if it's the public exposure or it's WJLB, people talking about you, or it's getting tough questions on the air. There's a lot of reasons people are nervous about running for office, but campaign finance is murky for sure. And quite frankly, there's a double standard. Look what's going on with Stormy Daniels and Donald Trump right now. He's in trouble with Ivanka, of course, but he's really the big issue that he's got to stare down is the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission. You are limited in what you can give to a federal candidate, and if that gentleman Cohen paid $130,000 to silence Stormy Daniels in the days leading up to the election, that's a campaign contribution, and that's the big deal. And if they don't enforce that FEC violation against President Trump, how could you enforce anything to anybody below the line? $130,000, it's a slap in the face to the FEC. But yeah, campaign finance is hard.
Well, I guess part of the issue there is that I have put forth that there's not a lot of young leadership that comes through. And I'm teaching now, and I get all these people, young kids around. I've never met one kid coming through that really has any real interest in what's going on around here. I just don't see it. There's not a groundswell of young Democrats. There's not a groundswell of young Republicans. I don't know why, but it's not happening.
I mean, I see some, but I was at one time. I was a young Democrat. I was 34 when I was elected, and I was extremely young. Okay, now I'm 49, and nobody calls me a young Democrat anymore. But young Democrats become middle-aged Democrats, which is what I am right now. But we do have active young Democrats. I know Chairman Weezer's constantly looking for young blood. Unfortunately, a lot of times people running for office are like Judge Arredondo is running for Lake County Circuit Court. And quite frankly, I think he's going to be the next Lake County Circuit Court clerk. And, he's retired, but who's better at the job than a former judge? I mean, so you're not going to tell Lorenzo Arredondo, hey, don't run, you're too old. You're not going to say that. The guy could put his name on the ballot and win.
Part of it is there's just not a lot of people that want to come up the ranks right now and take those jobs. I mean, I just don't see it. I know that you gotta say, hey, there are young Democrats. Yeah, there are some young Republicans. There is not a groundswell of activity here in Lake County.
We have two young candidates running, and they're both probably going to lose, in my opinion. One running against Dave Ham, and one running against Christine Sid, and both of them were filed by a political operative that went to prison. Okay, both these people, and they're both young, and they seem like nice guys, but they're both going to lose, in my opinion, because Dave Ham's not going to lose, and Christine Sid's not going to lose. So not only do you have to be young and run, you also have to beat the incumbent, which is not easy. So
it could get juicy right now when any political operatives names come up, but we are up against the clock. Hammond Mayor Tom McDermott stopping by just to kind of check in.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, Friday I'm going to do a different style show since it's Good Friday. I have 2 guests, and it's going to be Kevin, me, and 2 guests. So
I can't believe that
they're big guests.
You're going to share some mic time with
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah. You know what? It's funny how it came about, but yeah, Kevin and me are going to start off the show normally, and then we have 2 big-time guests that are going to appear on the show Friday morning. So,
all right,
I appreciate you bringing me on. Nice talking to you, Jim.
Thanks a lot, Hammond.
You're doing great, by the way. I love what you guys are doing. You guys, this is like a TV station. I've always said the region needs a TV station. So
getting closer.
You've done good. Good
Thanks
job.
a lot.
Thanks, man.
All right, guys, that'll do it for me. I'm a little behind schedule, and up next will be Vito of VJ Demasius of Vito's Pharmacy. VJ is one of the many guys who sponsored sports here on WJOB. We were able to put all the sectional games on, so we want to thank him for that. And also for bringing reasonably affordable sildenafil to the Calumet region. That has helped a lot of people just have a little bit more fun. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Bye.
Theo's Steak and Seafood sets the standard of fine dining